to the MMA Roadshow with John Morgan. I am John Morgan. This is episode number 9. We are in my home away from home, Brazil. This is my 21st or 22nd trip down to Brazil, so it's become kind of one of my favorite places on earth. And I'm with one of my favorite people on earth, one of my good friends, a coworker for a long time, essentially. Now she's off doing her own thing. But Fernanda, let me get the karaoke pronunciation. Say it in the right way.
Close enough, Prates.
See, come on, I can't say it like that. I can't say it like that. So people in America might not know, but you have been a part of the sport for a long time. You and I met in 2011, 2012?
2011. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, no, early 2012 or probably around the first UFC Rio, maybe.
Right. Yeah, so that would have been August 2011.
Yeah.
You were there the first one, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so August 2011 was the first one. I don't know why that sticks out in my head, but that was the first one, and you at the time were part of Textual, which was the PR company for the UFC until actually, as weird as it sounds, until this event, actually. They just changed PR companies here in Brazil, which essentially you guys kind of acted as UFC employees. I mean, you were representing the company here in Brazil.
Yeah, well, when I first started out at Textual, actually the first UFC Rio, I was just covering it. I wasn't working for Textual yet. I think my first event with Textual was actually the first global event and the first Fox event, which was JDS.
Right.
And Kane, and he got the belt, and it was just like a major,
Huge.
yeah. So when we first started, when I first started, Textual had already been working with them, but there was no UFC office in Brazil, and so basically we acted as the UFC office in Brazil, and we had a very strategic position too, and we had to really advise on the market because obviously we're not gonna advise on the fight business. That's what they do and what they always did, but our job was really to kind of just let them know what was going on in the country, and that's what we did. And for the longest time, yeah, we I think Textual, and even way before me, they had a major role in making the UFC as big as it is, because they had to do a very strong brand work because it was associated with so much violence. Even in Brazil, it was worse because we have Vale Tudo, and we had a very strong heritage of the Vale Tudo memories.
Right.
And we just immediately thought of jiu-jitsu guys invading wrestling gyms and just guys fighting on the streets and, just a bad rap. And there was a lot of it that had to be erased.
It's so weird because, I mean, we think of, for instance, the Roots of Fight shirt of the Jiu-Jitsu Americana. It's like we think of Brazil as this place that supported jiu-jitsu and therefore MMA and Vale Tudo, and it did for a long time, but I guess it was like the 70s or the 80s, like things really started to change, right?
Things started turning, yeah. When you had for the longest time, even today a little bit, you would have on the headlines of, say, a guy on a a guy that hit another car or hit a person, or jiu-jitsu fighter kills someone. Jiu-jitsu fight. That's the main defining quality of that person.
Even if they had one match or they were a yellow belt, there's
exactly. That's the dumbest thing. Usually those are guys that we had never heard of, they're not even strong names in the area, but this is the thing they chose to focus on, because in Rio particularly, we had the jiu-jitsu guy was very associated with the fighting mentality, but in the worst way possible, fighting on the streets and nightclubs. We had a lot of that, the guys from gym will go in nightclubs, get drunk, and you just get in trouble. And so we had a very strong stigma around the jiu-jitsu word for a while there. And I know because I was a kid in the 90s. I was born in 89, so early 90s. And I remember Ryan Gracie, and it was legendary. And that's kind of the image. And I know that because of my family or my mom or my dad, this is the kind of jiu-jitsu guys. It was kind of associated with a bad thing. So for the UFC to come here, and they had to kind of change that mentality around the word jiu-jitsu and everything associated with the jiu-jitsu and the Vale Tudo fighters. And it was a very, I don't think Americans really realized that because they really didn't have that negative connotation associated with the word, I think.
Yeah. So now anybody that's listening can understand why Fernanda is a guest here today, helping me co-host. Obviously, we are in Goiania for UFC Fight Night 67, Carlos Condit versus Thiago Alves, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But again, you've been around the game for a long time. I respect everything that you've done. Now you're actually still involved. You've done media, you've done PR, and now you're actually doing television production.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I've been doing television production for 1 year or so. I think I started April last year, and it's been real. But yeah, I first started doing like all combat sports, judo, karate, taekwondo, and judo is very big in Brazil because we have actually a very strong team.
Right.
And we have Mayra, who's an athlete, she just won the world, and she's an Olympic hopeful. So judo, karate, jiu-jitsu, everything fight related. And now I'm just doing MMA again, which is fun.
That's awesome. So if you ever have a chance to meet Fernanda or see her, don't try to mansplain it, right?
Don't ever mansplain MMA to me, please.
Especially for a noted feminist like yourself.
Oh my God, no! I'm done watching UFC at bars because it's like I'll watch an event and I'll have so many random drunk assholes trying to explain stuff to me that it's just like, seriously, dude. Seriously, you're gonna try to explain this shit to me? I've been around there. This is not my first rodeo, my friend.
And I guess I should clarify to everybody who doesn't know, you are Brazilian. You were from Rio. You live in Rio. You have essentially zero accent, and that is basically because you taught yourself English watching TV. Is that what why is it that you have no accent at all?
Well, I tell everyone that Seinfeld taught me everything, but I'm ashamed to say that Baywatch has a hand on it. Yeah, I watched a couple
That's
of.
the least feminist show ever.
John didn't even know that, so it's like.
That's funny.
This is first-hand information, guys. Yeah.
That's funny. So let's talk about Brazil.
Yeah.
I guess the biggest thing is there was recently a change in who's running things down here. I mean, when you started, there wasn't an office down here. Now there's an office. Giovanni Decker. Seen him, met him, shake his hand. Haven't heard a lot from him yet. And I always say this, and I said it when we were in Asia a few weeks ago. I mean, I don't think you can get on these directors right away and try to get in-depth interviews from them. I mean, they're coming from other places and other businesses, and they're learning MMA. They're bringing in expertise from other fields. They don't necessarily know MMA yet. So I guess from the Brazilian perspective, what do you know about Giovanni? Have you interacted with him? What do you know about the new head of the UFC in Brazil?
Not much,
Right.
really. Before him, we had Grace, and that's exactly what you said. People kind of expect Dana White at press conferences. So you
Right.
have reporters asking questions that they would ask Dana White or even Marshall, and those guys will not be able to answer them. Because, like you said, they're just coming in. And even if they're, like, heavily media trained and they start studying MMA, which they don't really have the time for because they're busy taking care of all the other things that involve the business.
Right.
Even if they do start studying and whatever, they're not going to be ready in 1 year to talk about MMA with the familiarity and the ease that Dana has. So that's that's a lot to expect from them. So when you interview these guys, you kind of have to just ask about the business and what they're bringing in. With Grace, I remember she didn't do much media either.
Right.
Yeah, remember
Sure.
she just started doing press conferences a little bit later, and so I don't think we'll see Giovanni doing. I don't know if he's gonna do this one. I have never really personally spoke to him. I've heard good things.
Right.
Though. But yeah, that's the thing. You just kind of have to adjust your expectations, like as a media person, of what you're gonna get, what kind of answer
Sure.
and what kind of
It is kind of funny when you watch like reporters and stuff like ask, hey, what do you think about the second, featherweight that was on the prelims? They're like, well, I have no idea, and I feel kind of bad for them because that's got to feel rough for them. Like
Yeah.
they're coming in to run the business, and then like you said, they're expecting Dana White, and it just doesn't happen.
And sometimes, and even like not even just the knowledge, but Dana is good with the press.
Sure.
Like he'll say weird, questionable things every now and then. We know that he's very spontaneous, and
Right.
that's just his personality. But he's charismatic, and he's very comfortable in front of the cameras, and you see that, and that's the thing. We smell blood. We're sharks. So when we see a person go up there and get on the mic and just look nervous. We know it, and we attack, we attack, we attack. So these people sometimes, and I don't know about Giovanni. I think Grace. It looked very clear to us that she wasn't that comfortable up there
Right.
because that was not her field.
Yeah.
She
Who
was
would
not a
who would be
spokesperson.
comfortable right away?
Yeah, but she's a businesswoman. She was worried about other things, and then, but because of the dynamics of the whole UFC business, she had to take on that role of the spokesperson. And but with Dana, you see that's very natural to him. So it's not nearly the same thing. So I guess people just have to kind of like,
He actually went through media training. I don't know if a lot of people know that. Like he
Dana?
was. Oh yeah, if you dig out the old tapes,
Really?
he used to be the same way. Even Dana, even the great Dana White, who was so
Really?
comfortable in front of the camera. Yeah, if you pull out the olds, he wasn't. And they got him some help. They got him media training, like practice. And I don't know the details of that, but I guess just getting him comfortable as far as being in front of the camera and speaking in front of. And now it's crazy because the guy can command a room like no other.
Yeah, there's hope for all of us.
That's
I
right.
guess. But I mean, you can media train people, but some people are never going to be comfortable.
Sure.
They might hide it better. They might learn to kind of deal with the situation, but some people just never really enjoy being
Yeah.
in the spotlight.
For sure.
But I really don't know if that's the case with Giovanni. Really, I have never.
We'll see.
We'll see. Let's see.
I should mention we're here at the K Hotel, which is the host hotel here in Goiania. We are drinking adult beverages, as is the case with the MMA Roadshow. Heineken and Stella's is what we've got on hand, which is kind of bothersome to me because they don't have any Brazilian beers here, which is kind of weird. I'm a fan of Brahma. I like Brahma a lot. I like
No.
Originals. I will drink a Skull when I have to. If an Antarctica is around and it's the only thing that will be consumed, I'm a little upset that we're stuck with Heineken and Stella, but you got to make do. So let me get your thought from a Brazilian perspective. Two big stars, really honestly the biggest stars, Brazilian, both having some rough patches right now. Let me start with Anderson Silva. Anderson, I know he's got the Taekwondo thing going on down here, but the bottom line is he's got this drug charge that he needs to deal with. And I guess from an American perspective, I still think Anderson Silva is the greatest of all time. I really do. I think he's the greatest fighter in the history of the sport. If you want to argue John Jones, man, that guy's already accomplished so much, which sucks to think about what he's in right now. But my biggest thing is I just wish Anderson would just go, you know what, I screwed up. I'm old, my leg broke, and I needed some help. And I did it. And I feel like everybody would just move forward and move past it. So, I know he's a massive star, man. I've been here at events and seen when his face is on every bus stop in the entire city, and it's incredible. So with all that's going on right now, do people in Brazil know what he's dealing with? Are they kind of oblivious? What's the status right now?
We know, but we have short memories.
Right.
Basically, when the whole thing broke out, like my take on the thing, we're very quick to judge. So the minute the whole thing broke out, like the minute we found out, everybody hated Anderson immediately. There is no, oh my God, it was like
Wow.
the nation disappointed at Anderson.
Wow.
And sports, like this is a major issue. This is one of those things that really, because you're dealing with another person. That's the
Right.
thing. With John Jones, and that's my take on something. The first chart when he was first caught with cocaine.
Right.
That's just one thing. That's his thing.
Right.
What when you get caught cheating with testosterone or steroids or whatever, you're hurting someone else.
Yep.
So this is major, and it became a major thing. But then he was actually very clever with the Taekwondo thing. The minute that he had already mentioned that, and people kind of dismissed it as like, oh yeah, sure, he's gonna come in,
Right.
40 years old, just I'm just gonna be an Olympic athlete
That's
now.
what I do.
Yeah, I'm just bored. I'm just gonna do this Olympics thing. But then when the news first started circulating again, we didn't take it very seriously. I didn't. I was like, there he goes again,
Right.
trying to make that one fly.
Of course.
Yawn. And then people started picking it up. And then the head of the Taekwondo Confederation, who's a very smart guy, kind of realized the potential that had. So he picked up on that too. And he was like, yeah, we support Anderson. And then the whole thing just became escalating. And then they did a press conference, and there were a lot of people there. And a lot of those people didn't even buy it, but they knew they had to report it.
You have to cover it.
That was such a smart move by him. And people are interested, and at the
Mhm.
same time, we do people are there is a kind of moral thing, but at the same time, it would be a hell of a story to have this guy who was on top of the world, broke his leg, came back, got caught cheating, then went to the Olympics,
That'd
and
be
then,
amazing.
that's kind of like an amazing story, and people are drawn to that either way. So the whole deal with Anderson to me right now is kind of ambiguous. Like, he's still the biggest star by far. Everybody knows. Everybody knows who Anderson
Right.
is. Everybody. He's there. There's like it's Neymar, it's Thiago Silva, it's Ronaldo. He's up there.
Wow.
I would say he's up there because everybody knows who he is. Vitor Belfort too, but so there's kind of that ambiguous feeling. I think people kind of want to see what he can do.
They want to get over it. They want to forget
They
about
want
it.
to get over it. That's exactly it. Like, people don't want him to retire. They
Yeah.
want him either come back in the UFC and be amazing again, or do the Olympics thing, or whatever. But people
something.
want Anderson.
That's awesome. Well, you mentioned Vitor Belfort's name, and that was the other name I was going to bring up to you. As you said, a huge star. I mean, from all accounts, the UFC started getting big in Brazil when Anderson and Vitor fought. Like, that was the kicking off point for things
Yeah.
really being big here. Vitor, a huge star. Obviously, he lost against Chris Weidman. Didn't have a particularly great night. There was the controversy that surrounded him for so long. The testosterone. I mean, obviously, Vitor and I had some issues down here in Brazil. But my thing was always, especially after talking to him and really dealing with it, is that it wasn't cheating. I mean, we may all not have liked it,
Yeah.
but it was approved, and he did do all the doctors and all that stuff. So I don't think you can call him a cheater. I mean, you can say that he was enhanced or that he benefited from testosterone. I don't think there's any way you can't. But I don't think you can call him a cheater. Now he loses. I don't know that he could ever fight for a title again. I think that was like his one chance, especially as deep as that division is right now. Man, there's so many big fights and
Yeah.
great fights right now that I don't see how he would get back. What do you think the future is for Vitor Belfort? And I mean, is he still a big star? Did that loss hurt him? Or are people thinking that like he's done? What's the thought there?
We have like this kind of like it's not a saying, but something that we know in Brazil. Brazilians don't like sports. Brazilians like soccer and winners. That's it.
Nice.
That's how we roll. And so Vitor, before the fight, everybody was, Vitor, we love Vitor. He's amazing. He's gonna come back. Everybody here was like, not everybody, but a lot of people were betting on Vitor. I know that because when I said I had my money on Weidman, they were like mansplaining things to me, or say, "Oh, you're only betting on him because he's cute." And I heard that a bunch of
Wow.
times, no joke. And I'm like, yeah,
He's pretty cute.
he is pretty cute. But granted, he is a very handsome man. But so a lot of people were putting their money on Vitor. And then the minute he lost, memes all over.
Yeah.
Everybody making fun of him,
Ah.
everybody joking, and everybody watched that fight. You mentioned Anderson and Vitor. I actually wrote my thesis on the Anderson and Vitor fight, my
Wow.
graduation thesis, because I was doing like media. Obviously, I graduated in journalism, so it
That's
was
pretty
just
cool,
like
and also reminds me of exactly how young you are.
I was actually it was the switch in media coverage after the Vitor and Anderson fight, of the MMA media coverage, and it was just like I can't even put it in words. Everything changed. They are our biggest stars by a landslide. Everybody knows that Vitor was in a reality show here, and obviously Joanna, his wife, was a big star for a while here. So, and there was the thing with his sister. Vitor has
Yeah.
always been kind of a pop star, and he's good with the media. You know it. He knows how to, very professional.
Absolutely.
So he's very smart about his choices and has always been. So Vitor is huge. He's still huge, but the minute he lost, everybody turned on him because
Wow.
that's kind of like, it's the mentality. And like you said, I don't see him fighting for a title ever again. It's a middleweights. There's a bunch of people in line. I mean, and with these guys, they're 30, whatever. They're
Right.
not getting any younger. So by the time the wheels turn and it's their turn again, they're probably gonna be too old.
Yep.
And it's not like the heavyweights because it's like the thinnest
One or two
division.
fights,
Yeah,
and you're there.
yeah, because it's just so thin. It's like a very thick division. So I don't see him fighting for the title.
But they could
but
still probably put him in headline like fight nights down here. I mean, it's not like he can fight somebody that's 4-2 coming off the Ultimate Fighter. But if you find names that make sense, I mean,
Vitor and Anderson would happen in Brazil.
that Wow, that would be interesting to do that again.
They could totally pull it off. It sounds ridiculous when we say it, but I can guarantee you that if they put that in Brazil, it's gonna be a hit. It's gonna be sold out.
Hmm.
They are the biggest stars. Like we don't care. We want to watch it. Like it's not the
Like stadium shows sold out, or at least HSBC for sure.
yeah. I don't know if stadium because it's truly
haven't
like
won.
speculation. We
Right.
will have to see how everything looks next year because that's probably
Sure.
when Anderson's gonna be back and but I don't know if stadium sold out 6 months ago. I would tell you
Yeah.
stadium sold out, but yeah, it would certainly be a major draw. It's a fight that people would want to watch again, and it's just even if for the specialists it's not that interesting, for the general population it's a very interesting matchup. So
Let's talk about the reason we're here. Thiago Alves versus Carlos Condit. Main event. I think a great main event. A main event that's interesting for a lot of reasons. And again, this isn't a breakdown show, so we're not looking for technical analysis and that sort of thing. But it's one that I'm excited to see. I can't wait. But the one thing that I have noticed this week in being down here in Brazil is that Thiago Alves is not a big star down here. And I don't mean that as any knock on him, but I'm just saying I've seen the amount of attention that Anderson gets, that Vitor gets. Obviously, Nogueira, is revered as a god. I mean, that's definitely not the case here. And I don't think he's being disrespected by any stretch, but he just doesn't carry that same status. So I'm curious. I've been asking a lot of people, why they think that is. And there's a couple theories I hear. I mean, one, guy's been in the States for a long time, so it's not like he's disowning his Brazilian roots, but even most of his fight career took place in the United States, so it wasn't like he fought down here for a long time. So he's not, front of mind. He's not here, that sort of thing. I mean, he definitely speaks Portuguese, obviously. He can communicate with everybody great. It's not like he doesn't know the language. So one theory is that he's just been gone for so long. The other theory that I heard is that we talked about the fact that Anderson and Vitor kind of kicked off the big barrage of MMA fandom here. Thiago missed a lot of time after that because of his injuries, so he just hasn't been there in front of the Brazilian audience for them to know who this guy is. All his peak came very early, back at UFC 100 and that sort of thing. So, A, I guess, am I right? It does seem like people don't really know who he is. Am I getting that right? And B, if that's true, why do you think that is?
I agree with you. I think it was a lot had to do with the timing of his career. So what year was UFC 100? I have
Oh, now you're
awful
gonna
memory.
terrible. 2009.
Nine? I think so.
2009.
That wasn't UFC wasn't as big here.
Right.
Actually, the first live event I think I watched was that one.
Right.
I
Wow.
had watched only like pre-taped or whatever. This was the first event that I actually bought on pay-per-view that I actually paid for, and so it was not like the sport wasn't matured here yet. So we basically haven't really seen what Thiago can do. And then after that, due to injuries and then the weight thing, and then his career kind of like, it wasn't as regular or as so he didn't really fight that many big names, so people don't know him here. That's
It's
it.
interesting.
And it's interesting because people ask me like, "What's going on in Goiania?" I'm like, "Oh, awesome main event," because
Yeah.
I'm so excited about it.
Absolutely.
Carlos Condit and Thiago, you're kidding me? It's gonna be a fucking bloodbath, and they're not curious. Well,
Crazy.
you're not curious because you probably don't know them. And I actually had a person from my team today. Who's not that familiar with MMA. He does mostly technical stuff. And he said, I think I only watched one of Thiago's fights.
Wow.
And he barely remembered it. So that's it. He's just not a remarkable character.
Do you think, if he wins this fight, and obviously this isn't a huge event, it's a fight night, it's not a pay-per-view main event, it's not a title fight, anything like that. Do you think that'll help him? Does he have the type of personality that Brazilians like? Is he too American now? Is he too, I don't know. Do you think he has the potential to be a star here, or is it just not going to happen?
It's kind of like it's one of those things that I can't even like really put my finger on, because sometimes people I don't think are gonna become a thing. Like we can really tell they just have an it factor.
Right.
And maybe Thiago doesn't have it. He's a hit amongst like the hardcore fans and like older fans because of his style.
Right. People love his stand up.
Yeah, he's very aggressive and very interesting to watch, and you can take that away from him. And like me and a bunch of other people actually got very excited when we found out that he was fighting here, because he has never fought here for the UFC. Like he's been with the UFC for what?
A long time.
A long time. Like
almost, I think 9 years.
9 years, I
Yep.
think so. Last time I checked, and then he never once fought for the UFC here in Brazil.
Right.
So I was actually very curious and very interested, and a bunch of like people who have been following MMA for a while obviously care and are interested. But at the same time, he's just not. I don't know. He might, but I don't see it happening. I mean, he's gonna go back to the U.S. Is he gonna do a lot of media? Is he gonna? I
Right.
don't see it. Like he. Here's the thing: we have Global here.
Right.
Global reaches every household. So for a fighter to
Every
be known,
house.
every household, like the newspapers won't hit that many
Yeah.
households. Like, so if you are a fighter and you go on Altas Horas, which is our late night Saturday show and go at Global, or if you just basically do Esporte Espetacular, which is our main sports show, and you get your face out there. That's why you have a lot of people who know Alan Patrick no Get.
Sure.
He's well known because they ran a story on him and it was sad and beautiful and they told about his story. So a lot of people know who he is and the guy has what 2 fights, 3 fights with
Right.
UFC.
Yeah.
So that's the thing. If Thiago is not doing local media, not showing his face on Globo, and not just really, you know, not being seen around here, I don't see him becoming a star.
Side note, I'm gonna make another podcast where you just say Brazilian fighters' names. That's the whole concept right there. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be a hit. Um, Let me ask you one other thing about what's going on in Brazil. Betch Correia, this controversy that's erupted over the last 24 hours, where she basically said that I guess the interview took place a while. It's the interview's a couple days old, right? Like it was when she was in Vegas, I think.
Which one?
Didn't she go to where she said that? Have you seen it? That she said Ronda Rousey. She hopes she doesn't kill herself.
That was yesterday.
Okay,
That was at the
interview
media
actually?
event.
Okay, so it was done there yesterday. Oh, was it the Q&A or
I
like the
think
fan
s-
event?
Yeah, I think it was at the fan event.
Wow. Okay.
I
I
think
didn't know.
so.
I thought it was an old quote that just got put out. Okay, but
No.
regardless, either way, she said that. Have you seen the quote in Portuguese? Like, have you seen it in its original
I
context?
haven't, but I can take a look at it. But I honestly, from what I could
I just wonder
gather,
because in addition to being a feminist,
Yeah.
you're also the PC police. So,
that sounds awful. The PC police, the party pooper.
well, but I just wonder because obviously the one thing that everybody latched onto is the fact that Ronda's
Ronda's dad
dad.
committed
And
suicide,
so
yeah.
that seems to make this like horrible. But is it still horrible if she said it before? Because it's kind of like, I don't know. It's like John Jones gets in an accident and it's bad enough, but you hit a pregnant woman. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, oh my God, it just couldn't get any worse for you. You know what I mean? So it's like,
Yeah.
had she said that about Misha Tate,
It wouldn't have mattered.
do you think that's what it is? It's just the I mean, and I don't want to say just the dad. I mean, obviously that's a tragedy in her life. Is that what it is, or is it just that horrible?
I don't think it's that horrible. I mean, obviously, it's that horrible for Rhonda, and that's one of those situations where you can't blame Rhonda for being super upset about this because it's a sensitive subject. But at the same time, every now and then I'll be just saying something and I'll go like, "Oh, I'd rather shoot myself in the face." It's just something that you say, and
Right.
I don't think that Betty said it to be mean. Betty has been saying a lot of awful things I don't agree with. I don't like that kind of promotion. I mean, I like teasing and I'm all for just marketing yourself, but I think that Betty has been taking it a little bit too far. But I don't think that's her being mean. I think that's her being clueless. And with the killing yourself thing, obviously, to me, I have to like listen to the whole thing, but it doesn't seem like something. Oh, Rhonda's dad killed herself, so I'm just gonna say that.
Right.
I don't know exactly what happened, but to me, reading it and it just seemed like something that came out and that, given the context, sounded extra bad.
Yeah.
Uh,
I think that's what it is. I tend to agree as well. I mean, I talked to Betch a little bit earlier. Obviously, Derek Lee was there to translate for me. I speak no Portuguese. She speaks no English. But essentially, what was told to me is that she said, listen, it's kind of a phrase more than anything, especially from, she meant it more like don't go crazy.
yeah.
And I totally see that. And it's an unfortunate choice of words. And that's one reason I asked if you'd seen it in Portuguese, because I've been saying since this came out, I think there's a big difference. It does sound like you're just, talking semantics, but to say like, hope you don't kill yourself, or versus I hope you don't commit suicide. You know what I mean?
But
Like,
I thought the same. Oh my! I thought the exact same thing. Like the choice of words would have mattered.
and it probably wouldn't have mattered since it had to do with Rhonda and,
Yeah.
and her history with it. But I don't think she meant anything as bad by it.
Yeah, me
Yes,
too.
so-
Yeah, I agree with you. It's horrible, and I know why it turned out like this, and I think that just comes to show that people maybe have to be more careful with their choice of words. sometimes.
Absolutely.
Especially if you're on a public forum and people are writing down and listening to what you say. So to me, that's kind of like a basic lesson in life that sometimes we can be a little more sensitive. But I don't think that she meant anything by it. It wasn't a particular stab at Ronda. I don't think she would sink that low. I don't think anybody would. That's just like, it's just so awful. And I don't think anybody has that kind of like.
That that fight, I mean, Ronda's a huge favorite against anybody. It doesn't matter who she's fighting. I mean, she's a massive favorite because I think she's a cut above everybody. But you think that's going to be a sellout? That card looks pretty good from a Brazilian perspective.
Yeah.
I mean,
Shogun?
Little Nog Shogun, Big Nog's on the card. I mean, that's going to sell out, right?
Yeah, I don't know. I really can't tell anymore what people are into, and like people are just buying their tickets for the Olympics and things. So people are like running
even
out
think
of
about that.
money.
Yeah.
And focusing on So so that's kind of like taking away a little bit of the focus and money. There's money, and people are spending it on other things. But at the same time,
And the dollars. I mean, the reais is not good right now, right? I mean, I don't know anything about Brazilian economy. I'm not going to pretend to know anything, but I just know that my money used to be 2 to 1, and now it's 3 to 1. So
Yeah.
I know that the price of
Dollar
adult
strong.
beverages is a lot less than it used to be, which I appreciate.
I think it's gonna be a huge event. Yeah, Ronda, and that's the thing. Like, Ronda is a huge star in Brazil. It's not about Betty. I don't think Betty is gonna have a lot of people rooting for her. It's probably gonna be even.
Even though she's Brazilian.
Yeah, it's probably gonna be even because everybody loves Ronda here. Ronda is a huge star, and she did all the global shows. She went to, Esporte Espetacular. She did Caras, which is a huge magazine here. So she got her face out there. They did an amazing PR job. They took, advantage of all the possibilities while she was down here.
That's why I argue with people all the time that people want to say she's not the biggest star in the UFC. I say there is no question. She is absolutely the biggest star in the UFC.
Mainstream? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mainstream.
And
no doubt.
global, not just in
Yeah.
the United States. I think totally. She's the biggest star the UFC has.
Yeah, here, like, everybody, not everybody, but people talk about the blonde chick that fights in the UFC, or,
Oh, that's got to go over well with you.
people kind of, at this point, people just kind of like have a general idea of who she is, even if they don't really know who she is. So
Right.
she's huge, and I think that even like by the press conference, we could kind of feel it, that the audience was kind of like swaying
True.
both ways. It's like it's not gonna be a vai morrer situation for Ronda at all. I don't think so. I think it's gonna be even. I think for in those things that Betty says, they might count. They might come back to bite her in the ass. Because
Wow.
then she comes across as mean and arrogant and everything. And Ronda is like this beautiful blonde girl, and there
Right.
is that element that unfortunately it's an element, but we can't overlook. And
It's both sexes. I mean, we joked earlier about Chris. That's the one thing. Like, I mean, and you and I have talked about this before, but I mean, it is wrong for somebody to only say, "Well, looks," but I do think looks go both ways, guys and girls. I think an ugly dude is less marketable than a good-looking guy in the same way. Maybe it's more so for women.
yeah.
I'm not going to argue with the
There's a
feminists. It's not more
proportion
so.
thing.
But, when people always talk about Chris Weidman, they're like, "Oh, he's handsome. He's the All-American." You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but no, like there's if Vitor were champion, that wouldn't matter,
right.
There's the pretty girls are much more marketable. I'm not saying it doesn't add to the guys.
Right.
Being good looking adds to anybody in the world. Unfortunately, that's how the world works.
Right.
But with the girls, I think it's more of a defining factor. That's
would
just
agree.
my opinion. Let's not be too feminist in this.
I would agree.
But
I would
that's
agree.
it. And also Shogun and Big Nog, and the Shogun and Lil Nog fight, as you know, like Brazilians are very interested in that one because obviously they had one of the most awesome fights back in Pride, and then and Big Nog, we always want to see Big Nog win. It's just the thing, like it's. You remember the first year?
I tell the story all the time for people to try to relate to people. Like Anderson is a star.
Yeah.
Vitor is a star. Big Nog is something different. It's not stardom. It's like deity level. I mean, the thing is, like, I'll never forget, and I explain this to people, I've never been in an arena. I thought he was going to lose that fight. I don't know what Brazil felt. I thought he was going to lose that fight.
Against Schaub?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He wins the fight, and people are not cheering. I mean, it's like, the famous video where Aldo runs and like everybody's going crazy. Like, no, it's not like that. I mean, it's like even more than that. And I turn around and I'm seeing people cry. And I mean, literally there are tears.
And in the media row.
oh yeah. I'm not even talking about the stands. I'm just talking about the media guys next to me. Yeah, no, I mean, yeah, and people crying. And I'm like, holy shit, like for you to cry because somebody win, like that's something totally different.
I remember so I was covering the event, of course, and I remember that the UFC, they're kind of strict about these things, you know that.
Of course.
And they were just first coming to Brazil, and they didn't really know how we work in general.
It was a little different in 2011, I can tell you that.
And how like the media here is, and they are very like they expect some kind of behavior that we did not show back then. And then I remember when Big Nog won, the entire press row just got up and everybody was cheering and crying.
Yeah.
And just because these people had been covering the sport long enough to know what Big Nog means, and he's such an amazing guy. Like he's just one of those people that he's unanimous.
Yeah.
Everybody loves Big Nog. Because he's just so nice. People take advantage of him because he's so nice.
Yeah.
Like that's the thing with people like Big Nog. He'll give everybody a chance.
That's awesome.
And he's like so busy, and he has the busiest schedule. He's always running around, and you know how hard moving around is for Big Nog at this point.
It shouldn't even be called Brazilian time. It should be called Nogueira time. To be honest with you, his is even worse than Brazilian time.
Yeah, and he's had all those injuries. Like he has a hard time like walking at this point, and but he's always thoughtful. Like if I call him and he doesn't answer for some reason, he'll call me back. Like, hey, Fernanda, did you need anything? And it's like this small things, but that just shows how much of like a great guy he is, and the media knows that even more so than the fans who like kind of admire him because he has been around, and he was also very media smart from the get-go. Like he did all the major shows. He has big fans and like people love him, but at the same time, the media knows that better because they know how well he's always treated us and how thoughtful he's always been. So it was an emotional moment. Like everybody just kind of feels like Big Nog is part of their family. Yeah. I remember when he got subbed by Verdum.
Yeah.
And that was just kind of like a bittersweet situation because Verdum is awesome too.
Right.
Like, you know, he's a great guy. Everybody loves him. And as he was walking out, I remember I was like in the media row, like kneeling down. I don't know what I was doing. I was PRing or whatever. And then he walked by, and he saw my face because I looked sad because he was like holding his arm.
Oh.
And then he just like looked at me and just waved and gave me the I'm okay look. And I'm like, this guy just nearly had his arm ripped off and he's like consoling me.
Well, you guys had a relationship before.
Yeah, I mean, I've always been close to him because he's like, just because of that, because he's so nice. And, you know me, like, I always try to take care of people. Like, when I did PR, I would call myself like a grown man babysitter because that's kind of what I was.
Pretty much.
But, so yeah, and that's how he is. Oh my God, I'm talking about Big Nog for hours now. But yeah, that's how much we all love him. And that's why when he wins, everybody gets so emotional because it's like one of those stories, like the good guy won. You know?
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing all the insight. It's been really fun. You're actually just getting into town. I've actually been in town for a couple days, although I was supposed to be in town a day earlier. I had the trip from hell. I tried to document it on Twitter and Instagram as well as I could. Instagram, the MMA Roadshow on Instagram, and at MMA Junkie John on Twitter. Tried to document it as good as I could, but between myself and UFC PR agent Matt Radmanovich, who happened to be on the same plane, we just got absolutely screwed. It took 40 hours for me to get here from Las Vegas. Ended up sitting on a runway for 2 hours in Las Vegas, and by the time, because there was weather in Dallas, by the time I get to Dallas, now they're having mechanical issues. That's where Matt Radmanovich met me. We meet in Dallas. They're having mechanical issues. It was supposed to be an 8 p.m. flight. It ends up being, a 10 p.m. flight to Sao Paulo. It ends up being 8 o'clock the next morning. But not only does it end up being 8 o'clock the next morning, we get there at 6 a.m. because they tell us to be there, and then it goes from 8 to 8:45 to 9:30 to 10:15.
I was
to
following
11:30.
all of that, by the way.
Brutal. And so we ended up not leaving until 2. I'm gonna have to admit, I was just belligerently drunk at that point because I was trying to have a little buzz on so I could sleep.
Keeping it real.
Just keeping it real. I was trying to have a little buzz on so I could get some sleep. But when you go from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. and yeah, we were drinking and actually it's like a 9-hour flight from Dallas to Sao Paulo. I don't remember taking off because I just passed out as soon as I sat down in my chair. And the first time I woke up, there was like an hour and 50 minutes left. I'm like, this is awesome. But we get to Sao Paulo and we had missed our connection. We got in at like 2 o'clock in the morning. Not only do we get in at 2 o'clock in the morning, then I get pulled over by a customs officer for like an hour. They pull me aside because I'm carrying a shit ton of gear now between the headsets that we're using right now, the soundboard that we're using to record this. I now carry 2 cameras so I can shoot video and shoot stills at the same time. I have all this equipment.
Very professional stuff,
I
guys.
appreciate that. Thank you very much. Carrying all this stuff, they pulled me aside, and these people are like, I'm like, I'm a journalist. They're like, why do you have all this stuff? I'm like, I'm a journalist. I need this stuff. They said, where's your paperwork that shows you're a journalist? I'm like, I mean, where's your paperwork that shows? Well, I mean, they actually do have like a badge. But I'm like, I was like, I don't know. What do you want? And so like I'm pulling up emails, like my confirmation for my credential, and they're like, this says from Lillian Caparose to Lillian Caparose. I'm like, yes, because it's a distribution list. Do you not know how BCC works? Like, what's? So I mean, they're just all this stuff, and they want. And finally, after like 45 minutes, I told this lady that's trying to get this information from me, I was like, I have nothing to hide from you. I'm like, but I can't give you something that doesn't exist. I can't give you a paper that doesn't. I was like, I will strip naked and you can inspect my underwear. I don't care what you need. I'm not hiding anything. So finally, they let me go. We still have to go to a hotel. We get to a hotel that they were nice enough to put us up in. We were there for like 90 minutes. It was just enough time to like take a shower and answer some emails and then come right back.
But showers are important during trips.
Oh my God. It was brutal. It was the most brutal trip I've ever had. It was 40 hours from door to door. It was rough. I'm finally getting caught up, which is good. And now I'm ready to go see the town a little bit. But the way that factors in the show is actually when I got into Dallas, just happened to be on the same plane as well, Sayif Saud, who is the head coach of Octagon MMA in Dallas, and Damon Jackson, who is fighting Honey Jason on this card.
Oh, you mentioned that he was in that situation too.
Poor Damon.
Guy.
At least I'm just sitting there getting belligerently drunk. Like, he's cutting weight. You know what I mean? Like,
so, oh my God.
So yeah, I mean that poor guy is hanging out with us while he's cutting weight. So listen, I say all that because earlier I had both of those guys stop in here as well, and I recorded interviews with them. And then Mike Dolce stopped by as well and kind of got his take on how he handles, travel. He's working with Thiago Alves. Obviously, he's like a huge part of Thiago Alves' camp. So going to play all those interviews for you now. So sit back, relax, enjoy those. And let me say thank you, Fernanda, once again. I know you were not sure if we would have enough to talk about or whatever, but I hope you enjoyed sitting down and basically doing what we would normally do anyway.
Yeah.
Drink beer and talk about MMA, except do it with a pair of headsets on.
Yeah, that's usually that's how it goes whenever you're in Brazil.
So where can people find you? I know you're on Twitter a little bit, Facebook, Instagram. What all do you do? Where can MMA? Let me make that straight. Not where can anybody find you, because where can MMA fans who are interested in your work find you?
Well, they can find me on Twitter, but I probably have to spell it though.
Spell it.
Okay, it's at Nanda, Nanda, which is short for Fernanda. And Prates, which is my last name,
right.
Prates, Nanda Prates. And then I had to put an underline. Apparently, there are a bunch of Nanda Prates.
Afterwards?
Yeah.
You have an underline? I've never noticed that.
Yeah, there is. Because it used to be Nanda Popota, because
Mm-hmm.
Popota is like short for hippo. And I was like, see, that's why I changed it.
Okay.
That's the reaction that I got when I told it. It was just kind of like a friend of mine called me hippo, and I just thought it was funny.
Still your friend?
Yeah, actually. Very
Shocking.
good friends. Yeah, that was just, that's how I roll. And they can find me there. And on Facebook, just search my name. And Instagram, too. Nanda Prates, too.
And then just understand you will get some feminist rants every now and then.
Yes, that's kind of my thing. But yeah, MMA and feminism and a lot of things about Van Damme. And peanut butter, because I'm just obsessed with it. So that's it. And as long as you're on board with those things, we can be great friends.
Awesome. All right. Well, sit back. We're going to grab another round of cold beers. I think it is much needed at this point. And sit back and we'll listen to first Sayif Saud, head coach at Octagon MMA. am here with the man from Octagon MMA, Sayif Saud. Chilling in my room today, but we've got the window open. We've got the Goiania skyline back there behind us. It's a little bit bigger city than I thought when I was coming here. I don't know exactly what it is, but how big it is, but it's bigger than I thought the first time I came here.
I think it's about 1.5 million from what I saw.
Well, that's not bad.
No.
That's not bad.
No.
Beautiful day outside, man. Wonderful weather, and we needed it, man, because you and I have been on a journey together. It has been a while that it took for us to get here. Delays in Dallas, obviously
Yes.
my hometown, where you live now as well.
Yes, sir.
Kind of screwed us all up and put us in some serious delays and kind of tested all of our wills a little bit, right?
It did. But we got through it together.
We got through it together.
As a team.
Well,
As a team.
I've been down here, I guess, 21, 22 times, something like that. But as we were talking the other day, I mean, you've done this trip 4 times.
I've done it 4 times, yeah, and probably about the last 2 years or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, all over Brazil.
Talk to me about, as a coach, first of all, the Brazilian experience. I mean, so we've been coming down here since 2011. I thought in the very beginning, to be honest with you, I think the U.S. fighters were a little bit intimidated to come down here.
Yeah.
I think it was just a little bit of the unknown. Of course, the atmosphere of the fans and that sort of thing is tough. But talk about your experience. I mean, what was it like first coming down to Brazil? What were you thinking? What were you worried about? And how did it turn out versus your expectations?
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. Fighters like to fight at home or close to home, so they have all the amenities that they're used to as far as cutting weight and so on and so forth. So that whole thing about the long flight and retaining some water and the worry about cutting weight, I think that's all a big part of it initially. We were lucky enough to have success the first time we were down here, so it kind of left a good taste in my mouth. Sean Spencer came down here, and I think he beat Yuri. I remember that.
Right.
And so that was a good night for us. And, I think it's just kind of one of those things in today's world, today's MMA landscape, that you have to do as a fighter. You have to travel. There's so many different fighters from all over the world, and a lot of them being from Brazil, that it's just kind of a rite of passage, I think. Every one of my guys now has fought in Brazil at one point.
Wow.
And as you alluded to, you've been down here 22 times. So, I mean, I can't think of any other country besides the United States that has had 22 shows.
That's right.
Right? So, it's enjoyable, though. I mean, it's a beautiful sunny day here. It's been raining in Dallas for the last month. So, we're just going to have fun and get the job done. That's the plan.
What have you learned anything in particular, like any notes that you've given your guys? I mean, obviously you're here this weekend because you're cornering Damon Jackson, who we'll talk to in just a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any one thing that you've learned most out of anything that you can tell your guy, hey, just this is what your mindset has to be for that journey. This is what is it?
Well, usually I'm with them for the journey, so whatever it is, we were at the airport and I'm like, we need to get an electric converter for the outlet. We just the little small things that you need to be prepared for. Like I said, we like to do compression pants on the way here, so to try to minimize, the edema and holding water on the flight. Small little tricks like that. We account for a 1 to 2 pound weight gain. Some people gain more weight than that on long flights. So just some of the things.
I gain more than a pound or 2 on long flights.
Yeah, everybody's different. You sleep on long flights.
I do.
So you probably lose weight, actually.
That's probably do.
But just kind of the small little things that come with the trip. And I will say that I don't send my guys down here by themselves. No matter what. And I feel like you get a soldier ready for battle, and then you can't just sit back in the control room and say, hey, good luck. So I always try to make it a point to come with them and be with them during the whole process, because it can be somewhat daunting going through immigration and not speaking the language, and not everyone speaks English down here, and so on and so forth. So I just try to kind of be there with them, and I think it's also one of the cool things in fighting, though, that you get to travel the world. So
yeah.
I think this is the first time Damon's ever been to South America, so it's a cool thing to see too for the guys.
So what do you do when you run into a situation like we did? So we get to the airport. Now, I was already hosed from the night before, but we run into you in Dallas. I think our flight was supposed to leave at like 8 o'clock in the morning. We don't end up leaving till 2 in the afternoon. Unfortunately, we didn't know that. It went from 8 to 8:15 to 8:30. They just kept moving it back. It wasn't like they just said, hey, guys, by the way, you're going to be here for 6 hours.
Yeah.
What's your goal as a coach at that time? I mean, what are you doing to keep your fighter's head right at that time?
Well, I think it really depends on the athlete, and I just feel real lucky that I was with Damon because Damon's just one of those guys that has his weight so under control. I mean, he's just a guy I don't worry about. If it was somebody else, and some guys just cut weight differently. Some guys need that. That Tuesday night, that Wednesday. Some guys are coming in 15 pounds heavier, and some guys it takes longer to lose. So it kind of depends on the guy. Today, I think we made the most of it. Today, I think we made the most of it. Dallas is my hometown, so actually we were supposed to leave last night.
Right.
So you guys had it worse than we did because we got to at least go home and go to bed.
That's true.
Yeah, we got to go home and go to sleep, and just had to say bye to the kids twice. But besides that, this from 8 to 2 was a little ridiculous, but
I forgot about that. So yeah, you guys got hosed just as bad as we did. At least but at least you said you got to go home.
yeah, we got to go home and one more night sleeping in the bed. So that's kind of what I said to Damon as well. I said, hey, at least you get to go home and sleep in your bed one more night.
Right.
So it actually worked out for us, and it really wasn't that big of a deal. But it definitely puts you a little bit at odds with your sleep, your rest cycle, and trying to get acclimated for the fight. That is the one thing when you're fighting far away is you want to try to get acclimated. There isn't a big change in time, so we don't really lose too much there. But Damon makes it easy. Let's just say that because he's
cool.
just a guy that's just so well prepared that he's done all the work, so I don't really have to worry.
That's awesome. I feel like as a coach, and maybe you can give me some insight here. As a coach, I mean, you talk about like how Damon reacts to somebody else. I mean, this week is really about knowing your guy and all the mental side of things, right? I mean, there's no drills to be done. There's no.
It is.
It's I think the key is like knowing your guy, right?
The key is knowing your guy, and everybody's different, and everybody reacts differently to different situations, and coaching is just not a blank slate that you can just apply this certain program and it works for everybody. It doesn't work like that. You got to know everything about them too. You got to know how they react when they cut weight. You got to know how they are under stress. You got to know, just all those small little things. And something my coach used to say, who I think is the greatest coach, is Greg Jackson. He says you need to put your heart and soul into it, and I believe that as well. I think you need to put your heart and soul into it 120% as the coach. And that's not easy to do sometimes. I mean, you've got to be mentally engaged with them every single second of those last few weeks because they need that. I don't think people understand the stresses of fighting. And we were chatting about this earlier. If I told you, John, you're going to get in a fight in 1 month and all your friends are going to be there, your whole family's going to be there, everybody you know is going to be there, and everybody you've ever known, whether they like you or they don't like you, is going to watch the fight somehow, some way, streaming, TV, whatever. And the guy's going to be equally as matched as you, very, very skilled as you are as a martial artist. And that's what's going to happen. That kind of stress, people don't understand that.
Yeah.
It's a lot different than, we went out one night and we were at the bar and we got in a fight.
Right.
That adrenaline comes and goes, and, then you can reflect on it later. My guys don't fight outside of the
Damn straight.
by the
Damn
way.
straight.
So I think people just kind of don't understand, what that does, and the mental. Physically, these guys train so hard for so long. Man, they're capable. I mean, and I would venture to say, I've only got 4 or 5 guys on the UFC roster, but I would venture to say every single one of those guys is trained up and has worked their butt off before they walk into that cage. And sometimes it just, adrenaline dump situations, just like things happen, and sometimes athletes don't perform how they want to, and people can be pretty vicious about that. Man, that guy wasn't ready, or man, he didn't train.
Yeah.
And that's just nothing could be further from the truth. The fight is volatile, and things happen, and you just want your athlete to be able to showcase his ability. That's really what you want as a coach. Is for him to be able to show his skills and that he's a world-class fighter. He's one of the toughest 500, 600 humans in the world.
Yeah. Well, I've only seen one of your practices, but from the one I saw, I can tell that your guys are prepared. You run that thing a bit like a drill sergeant, man. You're not messing around in there.
I think that, to not treat it seriously is somewhat naive because, there's nights that you're going to go in there and it's going to be a physical war. I mean, it really is. 15 minutes of, I always tell people, hey, go wrestle your brother for 30 seconds and see how you feel after that. you know, Imagine fighting somebody for 15 minutes, under all the stresses that I just mentioned just a second ago.
Right.
The mental stresses and then obviously the physical ability of the other athlete at this level. There's no easy fights in the UFC. I mean, I can't stress how much the UFC and MMA has evolved, since 2005, really, when I got involved, 2005, 2006, till now. It is so different. I mean, every athlete is well balanced, well, in good shape, well coached. There's so many good coaches now, so many good programs. You just can't sleep on any aspect of the game. So, and that's not easy to prepare for. Sometimes it's so funny. A guy says, I need to work on my cardio. So they work really hard on their cardio. Their strength fails, because they've neglected that. Or, I need to work really hard on my wrestling. They get, man, their wrestling defense is great, but man, their striking defense starts going down. There's only so many hours in the day for these guys to prepare. So, it's a battle. It's definitely a battle.
The last piece of the puzzle in Brazil is Fight Night. The atmosphere, I think it's a little bit different. I mean, it's a little bit, obviously, you're the enemy. You're coming into enemy territory. So what's been your take on that, and what kind of advice have you given to Damon or your other guys as far as how you handle yourself on Fight Night?
Well, I tell them about the chant that they're going to hear. They start hearing the chant at weigh-ins. I believe it's the "You're Gonna Die"
You're
chant.
gonna die. Yes, the very famous "You're Gonna Die."
And it's like being in a movie in the '80s. It's kind of a little throwback. And then they also say that too when you're walking out too.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think it's cool because they have a passion for the sport. They've always treated us well whenever we've been down here, and I mean the fighters as well has always treated us well,
Yep.
helped us out. Andre Pederneiras, the few times that I always see him when I'm in Brazil, and every single time, do you need anything? And I'm always, hey man, can you get this for me? Can you explain this? Or so I think that that martial arts spirit is there, and ultimately it's respect. I think it's respectful, and I mean you expect the guys to be behind their guys,
Yeah.
and every set of fans has their own pros and cons. We can leave it at that, I guess.
I guess the one thing I've noticed coming from down here is yes, because you're right. There's that atmosphere. It's kind of weird to hear "You're Gonna Die" and then realize they don't really mean it. Like it's not like at all. And and like those fans will be the first one that if you put on a good
Congratulate.
fight,
You're right.
yeah,
You're
they'll buy you a beer later. They'll take
Yeah,
pictures with you. They'll love you. It's like
100%.
they're really just trying to support their guy, but at the same time, like you go in there and put on a show, and they're gonna be like, you may knock their guy out, and it's not like you're gonna hear boos.
Yeah.
You're gonna hear
You're
claps because they're gonna go, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
yeah, you knocked our guy out, but you put on a hell of a show, and we respect you for
Yeah,
it.
it's 100%. It's like, you look at Japan and, you've been doing this a long time and, we used to all marvel at the Japanese audience during Pride because they would sit there totally quiet and then there'd be a guard pass and then you would hear an applause.
Yeah.
And we'd be like, man, that's cool. They recognize all these little pieces of the puzzle. And in Japan, they love you no matter what, as long as you fight hard.
Right.
They take.
Yeah, you can have a losing record.
You can have a losing record if you have a great fight. They take you out that night and show you a good time. So the Japanese really hold in high regard just that Bushido, that warrior spirit. And I think the Brazilians are actually the same way. I think you just alluded to that. I think they do that as well. I mean I've never we've won down here more than we've lost, and they've always been kind to us, and afterwards, hey, let's go out, let's whatever. So I think you're right. I think you hit the nail on the head. I think it's just a cultural thing, and that's all good.
It's cool. You gotta love the passion, man.
You
To
do.
see somebody that loves the sport that we all love, man, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, I mean they've got their little chant, and that's their thing, and you just gotta be prepared
Just
for
realize that's not what it is.
it. Nope.
So what happens at Octagon MMA when you're gone, man? What happens back there at the school?
Well, we're fortunate and blessed to have a lot of guys on the team. We have a lot of guys that are very well versed, and I always say honestly, in fighting you can learn something every day. I learn from my guys too. I mean, you get a guy that gets a little bit of a different take on something, so I try to look at the week and just look at who I think has some strengths and attributes that will fit for that day, and just say, hey, I want you to teach this. You run the no-gi. He won the striking. We got a lot going on this weekend. We got George Pakarayu, who's one of my 35ers, is fighting in the Legacy kickboxing event. He's the main event.
He's the kid that fought at Bellator, right?
Yeah, he's the kid that fought.
He was strong. He looked good.
He's something else. He's a real dynamic.
You guys had a hell of a night that night at Bellator, didn't you?
Yeah, we won 5 fights. Yeah, I don't think anyone's ever done that. So it was cool, man. It was it's always good to see your guys work, get rewarded, and we got tons of messages I got tons of messages from coaches and stuff. It was really a cool thing, to have that many guys win on a big show. But that's the other challenge that we have, is we have so many guys now that I try to fit as many guys as I can on a show. Because like I'm upset I can't be with George this weekend.
Right.
I don't want him to be fighting. That's a big deal. Legacy is a top-notch promotion, and that Legacy kickboxing event, Mick does a really good job. Their inaugural one was awesome, and I think that it's going to be one of those things that continues to blossom. So we're honored to be the main event in it. I can't even be there, so. Plus, I think it's in Shreveport, so that would have just been a couple hours away. There would have been no delays, no air. We just would have hopped in the truck, boom.
Done.
Done.
Head out on
Done
I-20 and you're there.
Hell, I-20, right? You know what? I don't even make that drive home that night. Hopefully with a smile on my face.
That's funny, man.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, man, I know you guys are busy, and I appreciate you taking the time. Any other things you want to plug, or people can follow you, or Twitter, Instagram?
No, man.
I know you're not a huge social media guy.
I'm not, man. I just, I say this, and I mean it as cliche as it sounds. It's just not about me, man. I was a fighter once, and I was an arrogant dude, and I was big and bad. And every time I see Greg, I always tell him, like, man, how did you put up with me, man? Because now I'm on the flip side of it. And he was like, nope, that's the right way to be. You got to believe in yourself. And I was like, yeah. And I was fortunate enough to my little career before I got injured. I did well, and that was it. I'm 34, about to be 35 years old. I'm a father. I'm a husband, and I'm just in a different phase of my life. So I don't have anything against social media.
Right.
I think it's awesome, and I honestly think it's a necessity.
It is.
You can't thumb your nose at it because it's just part of the current world. But follow my guys, support them. Come to the gym, stop by, work out. That's it.
That's it, man.
I got nothing else to say.
Perfect, brother.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, man.
All right, that was Sayif Saud, a guy that's become a good friend of mine. Obviously, he runs Octagon MMA, which is in my hometown of Dallas, Texas. So that right there makes me, kind of cheer for him already as a person helping to build MMA in my hometown. But also, just a good dude, to be honest with you. Really knows the sport, is passionate about it, and I hope that comes across when he talks. But really has a lot of care and concern for the sport itself, for his athletes and his team, and just always enjoy talking to him, picking his brain. I'm telling you, he's one hard coach too, man. I've been through some of his practices, and he definitely, runs it like a drill sergeant. So fun guy to talk to, and I really appreciated his time. And he got stuck with us, poor guy, on the trip down here. Now, even worse, to be a coach stuck in a travel delay. How about a fighter stuck in a travel delay? Had an opportunity to sit and watch Damon Jackson up close. And we don't normally talk to fighters that are fighting the week of a fight on the MMA Roadshow. But I just thought it was such an interesting experience, watching this poor guy, have travel delay after travel delay, and how that affected him. And, fighters are really, trying to be on weight at a certain point and have their entire fight week mapped out so that there's no surprises and no shock going in. And to watch Damon up close have to deal with all this, I really did find it intriguing. And I asked him if he wouldn't mind stopping by, and he gladly did so. And it's pretty cool. His dad is in town with him, and his dad came and kind of hung out while we were talking. And we actually started hearing what I swear sounded like gunshots outside, but we were told later was just fireworks, which I'm glad to know that was basically celebrating a soccer game that was going to be happening just a few hours later. So sit back, relax. I'm going to continue sipping on this Heineken and some Stella to follow as well. And listen to Damon Jackson, who we've done some video work with in the past, but is a good dude. And try to imagine what was going through his mind as he was having to deal with a drunk John Morgan in an Admiral's Club while he was trying to cut weight. I appreciate him putting up with me. All right, well, next up is also here hanging out in my room. I appreciate you guys stopping by. We didn't really want to venture out too far yet. I think we're all still a little exhausted. I said, let's just do this close by. But Damon Jackson, making your first trip down to Brazil. Haven't been here very long yet. Should have been here longer, but thanks to American Airlines and the weather, we're a little slow in getting here. But how are you finding it so far?
No, it's been great. I mean, it's just been real casual so far. I haven't really had to do any media or, do a whole lot. Just kind of cut a little bit of weight, get a little workout in, and that's it.
So when you got here, you landed. We landed here this morning. I guess it was probably about 10 or 11 o'clock when we finally got here. About 24 hours later than we were supposed to be. What was the first thing you did? I know that the sleep pattern had to be a little screwed up. What was your first instinct?
Well, first thing for me is as soon as I got here, I checked my weight and then went straight to the workout room and ran on the treadmill for a little bit, got some weight off, and then kind of rested. And then we had a couple meetings to go to, and then after that, just kind of hanging out.
Let's talk first before we get to the whole experience. I just want to talk about your career. Got to the UFC, obviously the pinnacle where everybody wants to be. Things didn't go the way you wanted to the first time around. What's the time been like from then till now? Because I know you've had to have been itching to get back.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I've learned that you really have to be patient with your career. You can't just jump into everything, and you have to be smart about decisions you make. And going into that fight, I felt like I was so prepared coming off the victory with Leonard. I was really amped up, and going into the fight, I was really in a different mindset. I was really calm and wasn't nervous for the fight. I was kind of ready for it. I was expecting it. I was ready to go after I fought him. And something I wish I would have, had more of was that nervous, just that nervous feeling that you usually have during the fight, or that I usually have during the fight. And I didn't have that going into the last fight because I was just so I felt so confident because I came off a victory that I wasn't expecting it to come the way it did. So coming into the fight, I was really confident, and going back, I would definitely wish I would have had a little bit more nervous in me, but
That's weird. So I mean, everybody always talks about the octagon jitters and all that stuff, but I think you said you just didn't have it.
Yeah, no, I honestly didn't feel like overwhelmed or whatever. I just whenever I was out there or before the fight, even the media, all the stuff that I had to do before, which is stuff that I wasn't familiar with doing, it didn't bother me, it didn't faze me, and going into the fight night, I was really calm. Didn't even during my warm-ups, I wasn't like we had this speech by Dana White that would put most people in fear to go out there and put on this amazing show or whatever, and he's sitting there talking like screaming at us and saying, because the car was messed up, because that was when Dillashaw and
That's right.
Who was it, Hidden
Yeah,
he got hurt, and then there was a
Ended up being
fill-in.
Joe Soto
Everybody was
and-
like mixing the card up and everything. It was a crazy
yeah,
card.
and what's his name was overweight too, and had
Yeah,
couldn't fight. Yeah.
I mean, it was crazy. And then he was giving us a little talk, and it got me amped up, and I was ready to go. And then I had a little like downtime, and I was just sitting there getting warmed up, real casual, and really wish that somehow that nervous would have like got to my stomach or got to my head or whatever it is, because that's usually what brings the best fight out, is when you go out there and just not think about it. You're just real. You're in the moment, and I was thinking during the fight, which is something that never happens to me. Like I could hear people talking. I could hear Joe Rogan. I could hear his voice, and I was like, I shouldn't be hearing this. This is
So
weird.
you can hear the
like,
commentary while
I
you're
could hear
fighting?
people like I could hear people say like different things. I'm like, this isn't normal. And then
That's wild.
I made one mistake, put my head in a bad position, and which is something I don't do it a lot in practice either. It's just something that kind of I panicked and went the wrong way on the choke defense, and it cost me the fight. And I've learned a lot from it. You asked me about my downtime. I haven't had downtime since the fight. I've been training even more on the small details of my weaknesses and stuff, and I'm really looking forward to fighting on Saturday night, and putting on a show and proving to myself that I'm a better fighter than what I was, or what I showed on August 30th last year. So
For sure. You get the call to come fight a Brazilian in Brazil. He's fought enough times. I mean, I don't think it's not like they're just bringing guys down here to be a patsy or whatever. But still, you know you're going to be fighting a Brazilian in Brazil. Did you give it any pause? Like, man, I don't know, this is a setup or
No, I mean I couldn't really because it was like it's been because whenever I started my amateur career, I fought or I wrestled during season, which is usually like a 5 month season. And as soon as season was out, I would start training jiu-jitsu, and then I would take 2 to 3 amateur fights during the summer. So my whole college career, I was doing amateur fights during the summer and then going right into wrestling. So I really never had downtime with competition, and so having that break, yeah, is killer to me. Like I was wanting to compete, I was wanting to do jiu-jitsu tournaments and do whatever I could, like anything, whatever I could, and it just, getting the call, being in Brazil, whatever, whoever, like that doesn't phase me at all. Like who I'm gonna fight or where it's gonna be or whatever, and especially at that point, I was kind of like. I want this fight. I have to take it. I can't sit back and wait any longer because I'm ready. I've been training like crazy and putting the right time in the gym and doing the right things with coaches and just doing the right things with my body, keeping myself healthy. So I'm ready to go. And just when I got the call, I kind of had to like calm down because it's I got it a lot longer than I normally give a heads up on a fight. So having a big heads up on a fight, you don't want to peak too early. And I would have peaked too early if I didn't have the right coaches around me telling me, hey, slow down. We still got this amount of time, so let's work into it this way. So definitely, I was ready to go when I got the call.
That's awesome. One of the reasons I really want to talk to you is because I had to sit there and watch you, as we were coming here, and just. I'll be open. I mean, we were sitting there. Well, me especially. I was sitting there pounding beers so I can get a buzz on, so I can sleep on the flight down here. Meanwhile, you're being super disciplined. We went in the Admirals Club and there's a layout, but I mean, you're like picking like a little bit of fruit here, a touch of water. What's that mindset like? I mean, is that absolute torture for you? I mean, obviously, you're cutting weight. You're trying to get ready for this fight, and the people you're hanging out with, they're just kind of boozing it up so they can pass out on the plane.
I would, if everybody was like watching their weight with me or doing like dieting with me, it would feel awkward because you see that every day. Like I stay on a pretty strict diet, so I don't expect my wife or whoever's around me at the time to eat the same food that I'm eating just because I'm keeping my weight down or whatever the case is. So when it comes down to fight camp or fight time, that doesn't phase me at all. And I actually like that social whatever, like where you go out and eat with people just because, I want to be out doing stuff. I don't want to be sitting at the house just, oh, I see this glass of water. Should I down it or should I just sip it or whatever? Like you don't want to just be thinking about food because, it's just, there's so much more to do, so much more to think about going into the fight. But
that's funny.
It definitely doesn't bother me.
Well, I felt kind of guilty, so I'm good to know that that's good. I mean, I had my regimen down too. I have my way of doing things. They're just a lot different than yours. Then the delay comes in. 16-hour delay, I think, is what we ended up getting. I know that you guys got everything dialed in, your schedule, where you want your weight to be, what all that sort of thing. How do you deal with that? No, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it. Obviously, you can't get on a plane. The plane's not going anywhere. So how do you deal with like the last second? Like, good God, they're changing everything on me.
You just gotta make it happen. Like, I had my foam roller with me. Had the right, like I had my protein bars, my raisins, my Greek covered raisins or whatever, Greek yogurt covered raisins. I have all those little things with me. So. For the time delay, it was horrible, but it didn't. It doesn't. You can't let it affect you just because, some way or another, your game plan is not going to work out step by step how you want it. And if you let that get in your head, it can really mess with you. And I found out it's just the best thing is just kind of go with it and make it happen. Because no matter what, you're gonna make weight. If you don't make weight, you don't fight or whatever.
Right.
So I mean, you're gonna do it. So there's no reason to stress about it if you're not getting to do exactly how you wanted to do it.
How does this fight week feel versus last week? Well, not last week, but the last fight week.
Well, I mean, last fight week was a week notice fight, so it was like I didn't have time. Like I had to do all my medicals in one day. I had to do all as soon as I got there, I had to do all the photo shoot, the interviews, do all the stuff that you would normally do on your first fight for the UFC or whatever. Like you have to do all that stuff, and it's kind of spaced out usually. But I had to do it all jam packed in a couple of days, and so going into this fight, it's like. Whatever, like I'm here, my weight's good, getting a good workout, I feel great, the flight didn't bother me, the sleep, I've got this, the sleep, the time difference no different than what we're used to in Texas, so it's not 2 hours isn't that big a deal, but the time difference and the sleep pattern hasn't been messed up. So that's the biggest thing for me is that recovery from sleep. So
How about fight day? I mean, do you have anything in your head about how you want to approach it differently to get yourself in that right mindset?
no, I'm definitely. I don't see how right now I could go into the fight with the wrong mindset just because I feel so right about it. Just I've done so much right for this fight or for my career in that time that I had off that it doesn't matter who I fight or what time. If they tell me I'm the first fight on the card and they change it up, it's not gonna matter whenever I go into the fight just because of how good I feel right now. And basically right now it's just waiting until they give me the heads up and we go in.
What do you do to kill time this week? Do you bring video games? Do you watch film? What do you do?
No, I don't. I don't watch film a lot. Like we watch it, we break it down in the beginning, and we respect everything in that sense. But I don't sit there and be like, oh, I've got to do this, I've got to do this, or whatever. I game plan for myself and I do my own things. But I really enjoy just on Twitter getting on ridiculousness and watching all the stuff that they post on there. And then I have an app on my phone. It's called Break, and stuff like that, just to get my mind off fighting completely. Like I don't think anything about it, or I look at pictures, go through and look at all the pictures I've taken of my daughters or whatever is going on. So definitely don't think a whole lot about fighting until it's time to go.
I'm gonna have to get on that ridiculous's Twitter. I didn't know
It's
they
pretty
post
funny.
stuff on Twitter.
Yeah.
I love that show when it
Yeah.
comes on. I end up just
It's-
wasting an afternoon watching
Yeah,
it.
I record it so I don't miss it.
Right.
Because I don't want to watch it from my kids, so I have to fast forward it. So it's better to have it on DVR, so you can just kind of skip through and miss the commercials.
That's
But,
funny. So
yeah.
they put little clips on their Twitter?
yeah, and it's random stuff they found on the internet. Obviously, it's a
Right.
same show, same setup, whatever. But they remix some videos or whatever, and it's pretty funny.
That's cool. 3 girls at home, right?
Yes.
And what are their ages?
6, 3, and 1.
What do you do? My son just turned 3, and I'm trying to figure out what have you done? Do you expose them to fighting? Do they know what Daddy
No,
does?
well, I mean, they know, but they don't know anything. They don't understand how to throw a jab or whatever. Like they wrestle with me and they do stuff like that, but I don't sit there and put it in their head that this is what is right or wrong or whatever. I try to, I still discipline them. Like if somebody gets in your face, figure it out, deal with it, or
Right.
whatever it is. If they hit you, you hit them back or whatever. I tell them that, but I'm not gonna sit there and push it on them and expect them to know everything. Like my daughter just started doing jiu-jitsu because
Very cool.
she came into the gym and saw me training, just a random day, and she saw the kids' jiu-jitsu class and wanted to try it out. And I didn't think she was gonna care about it at all because she's done gymnastics and soccer and a few other things and hasn't picked up on it. And jiu-jitsu is something that just clicked with her and she loves it. And so now she's doing that 4 days a week on top of her soccer and gymnastics and everything else. But that's definitely her favorite thing. So it's funny because I'm
That's
trying
awesome.
to not coach her. I'm trying to stay away from it because I don't want it to I don't want to be pushing it on her
Sure.
or want people to think that I'm pushing it down her. So I'm not coaching her at all. I'm just sitting back watching her. And it's funny to watch her learn and to see how she's progressing through that, and she really enjoys it.
That's awesome. And your dad's here with you.
Yeah.
Is he cornering you or just kind of hanging out?
Yeah, he's hanging out. We brought him in. It's a big thing to travel international and to fight, and it's just a cool atmosphere. And it was awesome to get to bring my wife, my sister. I have a sponsor coming down, a long friend. My dad made it out, so it's cool having people around me.
Very cool.
Makes it seem normal because I'm seeing my wife, seeing my sister. Whatever it is, it's just a normal fight for me because they always come out and support me. So making the trip to Brazil is pretty cool. It's a lot to go through to get here, but now that we're here, it's just another fight.
I bet for your dad it's more nerve-wracking than anything, right?
Yeah.
It's hard to watch your son get punched in the face for a living, isn't it? That's right. He's done good. He doesn't have to see it too much. That's awesome, man. That's great, man. That's great. Well, listen, I know that you got things to do and you got to get busy on cutting weight, so I appreciate you taking a few minutes and stopping
Yeah,
by.
for sure.
You do a little bit more social media than your coach does, but
Definitely try.
Where can people hit you up?
I post a lot of ridiculousness. I retweet a lot of their stuff, but on Twitter and Instagram it's Damon the Leech, and then Facebook Damon Jackson. But yeah.
Awesome, man. And I guess what are we gonna see? Are we gonna see something totally different than last time? Or
Yes, and yeah. I'm gonna come out from my last fight. Hell yeah. I'm not gonna. it's just the point of going out there and doing the right thing for me. And I know what I do in practice, and I know how I feel. So coming out there and putting that on that's what I expect from myself. Whatever the fans, if they get something good out of it, great. But if I'm happy with the fight, that's what everybody's gonna get, and that's what I think everybody will be happy with.
That's awesome. Well, we better wrap up because it sounds like World War III is breaking
Yeah,
out there. I don't know what's going on. If those are, hopefully it's just fireworks. That's what we're gonna go with. Fireworks. Thanks, brother.
Thank you.
All right, so that was Damon Jackson again. A hell of an adventure for that guy, and trying to cut weight. He wasn't the only one. We'll find out. There were a couple of different guys on this card, especially fighters coming from America, that had to deal with some of these weather delays that we dealt with coming down here. That really kind of throws you off. You're trying to cut weight and be dialed in certain days, certain times. But interesting to hear his mindset. I really enjoyed meeting Damon Jackson. Just his second UFC fight. But sometimes it's fun to meet guys with the very start of their UFC career. You don't know much about them and really get to know them as people as they're making their way in the sport. And I think that's one of the things I've always liked about this sport, man, is as much as I love just the fighting aspect of it, and I love the technical aspect and all that, it's really the people that are involved in it. And, man, just the sacrifices they make and what they do to be fighters, especially at the highest level, is pretty incredible. So hope you enjoyed that. And, again, don't normally bother guys on their fight week schedules to come in and do the podcast, but that was really nice of him to do. So appreciate that. Should also mention that my man Cold Coffee will be putting all of this podcast together. So when you're listening to it, it's because he has been putting in the work. He is not here this week in Brazil because he has been up in Milwaukee with our own Ben Folks doing some gym visits up there. So stay tuned to that. You'll see some videos and some things that he's been working on with Ben Folks this week, and that's why he couldn't be here. But still working hard to put this podcast together, and I really appreciate that because he's the man that makes this thing all work behind the scenes, because I have no idea how to do any of that stuff. So big thank you to him. So time for the final interview this week. Man, Mike Dolce stopped by, and really appreciate him. This guy is one of the busiest people in MMA. There's no doubt about it. Has his critics. We talk about that a little bit. Some people that say, he really doesn't do anything that special. He'll explain to you what it is he does and why he thinks what he does is pretty damn special. And I think when you hear it, you listen to that he does put in quite a bit of work, and I think he does something pretty unique. Also talks about the fact that, you may know him for his fantastic weight cuts that he's done with guys. That's not what he wants to be known for. It's so much more than that, and he feels like he offers a lot more to fighters. But just had a good time talking to Mike Dolce. He's a good dude. He's also a new father, and he's having to get out on the road, and this guy is one of the few people I know that travels more than I do, and obviously that's not easy. You'll hear he's already missed about a quarter of his young daughter's life as it's starting out. So it's pretty intense to hear about it. But Mike is a busy man on fight week, so it's very cool of him to stop by. And hopefully, as I sit back and enjoy this beer that he would probably not want me to be drinking at all, that you enjoy listening to what he has to say. And eventually, I've got to start listening to what the guy says. The guy knows what he's doing, but I just kind of enjoy my beverages a little bit too much. But in the meantime, sit back, relax. Let's listen to Mike Dolce. All right. Well, now I'm joined by the MMA nutritionist, expert, dietitian, weight cutting guru, title after title, UFC Fit brand ambassador, just everything, Mike Dolce.
Hey, what's up, John?
How you doing, man?
I'm good, brother.
I know how busy you are, so I won't keep you long at all, but I do appreciate you stopping by. And let's just say it, you just got back from the grocery store, right?
Just got back from my grocery run. I'm going to the grocery store every single day, getting our food fresh. I mean, that's really the key. That's what we do. So trying to get the freshest possible ingredients here locally. It's nice to be in Goiania, which it's called the Kentucky of Brazil. Evidently, it's a big farm area. Yeah. So it's hard with the language barrier, but when you care about produce, let's say, sounds a little cheesy right now, but the produce manager really understands that I care, and he's walking me through, showing me the freshest pieces. So
you go into the supermarket and you ask for the produce manager.
Absolutely, and I ask for I want the butcher, I want the fishmonger, I want the dude that knows exactly where everything came from, what time it came in, knows the different cuts. I look for that guy because that guy loves what he does. It's like you know everything about your job, you have a passion for it, so I want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to just some hourly
clerk. That guy probably enjoys it too, right? Because normally they don't nobody cares.
Nobody cares about him. He's back there all alone by himself. You could like do a whole story on that guy, his life, and then you get somebody like me that walks in and wants to understand what he knows. They open right up.
That's
so
awesome.
I get like a free 1 hour private, when I walk into these supermarkets. So
Well, so you're here mainly for Tiago House.
Yes.
And you're doing kind of the VIP service, right? I mean, he books
Absolutely.
you at the highest level of what Mike Dolce can provide.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Walk us through. I mean, because it goes a few weeks back. I mean, you went out to Florida for a while.
Yeah, I've been in Florida for 4 weeks now, finishing up Tiago's camp, which is typical with an athlete like Tiago. And I don't travel that long for many athletes at this stage of my career, but Tiago's one of the career athletes that I work with, so I will travel for him wherever. I mean, I love the guy as a brother. I think our relationship is well known outside of the professional. He's an amazing human being. That's why I'm happy to stand by his side. And this is a huge fight. Good friends with Carlos. Carlos and I were actually going to work together when this fight came up. And I said, well, Tiago is the one guy I can't work against.
Right.
I'm not working with Hendricks anymore. Still love Johnny, but Tiago's the one guy that I'm bound to for the rest of his career, and unfortunately, I couldn't work with Carlos in this one. I hope we can in the future. But with Tiago, I work with him year round, and it's a 52-week job per se. But when fight time comes, I help coordinate the training camp. He's got some of the best coaches in the world, which we know down in the American Top Team. I help coordinate what the training program is going to be, the volume, the intensity, the peaking. I look at the mesocycle, the macrocycle, the microcycle. We kind of break everything down, and then how the diet feeds into that. So we have a very good system, high-level system, and this is the elite level here, what we're doing with a guy like Tiago. And I think it's a good example for anybody listening, all the athletes out there, that really take a broader view of their career and preparation. It's not just about fight week. I'm not just a weight cut guy. I hate being known as the weight cut guy anymore, because that's not what I do. I'm the health guy.
Right.
I'm the longevity guy. Yeah, I'm a performance guy, and I just made the weight cuts a heck of a lot easier for a lot of these guys and girls. And with Tiago woke up this morning at 179.
Wow.
He was 181 yesterday morning, fully fed, fully hydrated. We're eating 6 meals a day right now. And the injuries to Tiago, I'm slightly off topic of your question, but the 2-year layoff that Tiago got, a 25-month layoff between the Martin Kampman fight and the Seth Baczynski fight due to injuries, that was the best thing that could have ever happened to him, because he, like Hendricks, used me as the weight cut guy.
Right.
Where I could walk around 40 pounds overweight, Dolce will get me down. And we had some heart-to-hearts that this is not in your best long-term. This is not for you the best long-term Tiago Alves. This is not going to extend your career. We're taking years off your career. And this was before the injuries, and then injuries happened, and he kind of understood that you can't balloon up in the offseason. You can't. He kind of left his partying ways, but he would just kind of, not quite be a 24-hour professional, like I like to say. Post-injury, through the rehab, he understood it. The nutrition helped him to recover faster, stronger. He came back leaner, better, with more power, more energy, was able to do more things in his training. His coaches loved it, because now he was picking up more skills, utilizing them in real time. And I think that's what we're going to see on Saturday night.
That's awesome. So one thing you said there, you talk about his workout levels and stuff like that. So does that mean that you're actually interacting with like the coaches at American Top Team, or help and say, listen, don't run my guy through the paces today. He needs a little rest.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what does that take? Trust. I mean, it's got to take some trust, or do they get annoyed? Like, shut up, Mike Dolce. I know what I'm doing here.
Yeah, the first time I work with any athlete, all the coaches tend to hate me. You know what I mean? Because who the fuck is this guy? And like my name is out there a little bit, for better or worse. So my name is recognizable, and they think I'm the guy that they read about in the headlines. They don't know who I am as a human. I think you know me as a human,
Sure.
and the insiders know who I am. And it usually takes me a full fight camp of me breathing the same air as them, and them seeing the way I work, and they see how much better their athlete is. And that's the same thing with the American Top Team. First fight with Tiago, I mean, the coaches, they would speak Portuguese right in front of me, and they wouldn't even, attempt to speak English. It wouldn't include me on anything. But then they saw, and that was for the John Howard fight with Tiago. Then they saw how easy the weight cut was, what a high level Tiago performed. And that was after his missed weight against John Fitch, poor performance for Fitch, brings me in, he has a great performance, and then it was all hugs and smiles, and then I became part of the family and accepted, and each fight since then, I became, an honorary member of their coaching staff, but I'm not affiliated with any specific team.
Right.
And I think that's important. I work for the athlete, I don't work for the team, but I have that code of honor that I don't divulge anything that American Top Team does when I work with an athlete from any other team, and that's fair.
That's martial arts.
That's what we do, exactly.
Yeah. So when it comes to fight week, when you come down to Brazil, now I've seen you in the airport before. I mean, you bring as much food as you possibly can with you, right?
I bring everything.
So you've got like pans and stuff that you can cook with and all sorts of stuff.
I have everything. We are completely self-contained. When I get on that plane, I have everything my athlete needs from the time we land until the time we get back on the plane home for worst case scenario. I'm prepared for. So if I was not able to find, a chia seed or a leaf of lettuce or a piece of grass-fed beef here in Goiania, that's not a problem because I have all the nutrients, Tiago, and I'm working with Mirsad Bektik on this card also. I have everything they need. I have the full ability to prep it. I call my travel kitchen. And I've done this so many times now on every continent that I haven't checked a suitcase in going on 4 years now. So I actually pack everything in my carry-on, plus all my clothes, to train at least once a day and wear, comfortable clothes like I'm in right now. I mean, I have this system down. It's like, like the George Clooney, was Up in the Air, that movie.
Right.
I mean, just like you travel so much.
Yeah.
I got this system down. I know exactly how many pairs. Socks and underwear is key.
That is key.
If I got clean socks and underwear, I don't care what my shorts and shirt
look
looks
like.
like.
Be nasty. It's all good.
I don't care, exactly. But I have it down because we have to be accountable, and I've been in these situations more than enough times to know that nothing works the way it's planned. Nothing does. So I expect everything to go to shit. So if we have anything that's halfway decent, it's bonus for us.
That's awesome. So you've been to Brazil a couple times.
Yeah.
I mean, first of all, I guess the positives, it seems like they have a lot of like tropical fruits and like really cool stuff that we don't necessarily see back home. But I mean, is there like organic grade stuff? I mean, how do you know what you're getting?
You don't really, and that's what developing relationships with the produce manager and the butcher and things like that really does help. Language barriers are a little bit different, difficult, but there's quite a few English speakers here, and they're more than happy to help. And you smile and you be nice to people, and that gets you really a long way. It's hard to determine what's actually organic here in Brazil because the labels are a little misleading. I mean, there's a lot of the market I've been going to is like a farmer's market style. So I mean, I look for dirt on the potatoes. I mean, that's real. I look for things that have recently been pulled out of the ground, and I can kind of tell what the shape is, what the texture is, if this is organically raised, if it's a GMO, because GMO produce is typically perfect. It looks like it's art quality, and that's not what I want, And also, I'll buy some things, and I'll put it on the counter, and I'll wait to see how long it takes to start going bad. I mean, I want my produce to go bad at a very fast rate, as it should. I don't want an apple to sit on my counter for a week and look perfect. That's bad. It's been modified. I don't want that. I want everything fresh. I want it natural. I want it clean. And that's what I've been doing with the athletes this week.
So when a guy like Tiago, takes on you and employs you at that rate, at that point, every meal all week long, I mean, they don't have anything to think about as far as diet, right? It's just eat what Dolce puts in front of them.
Exactly. They don't have to worry about a thing. I got keys to everybody's rooms, so they don't even have to. Sometimes I'm like a little gypsy, little fairy that shows up in the middle of the night, and I'll just like drop off their like food, and I'll put it in the refrigerator. I'll have everything set up. So athletes, they're very solitary during fight week. They nap a lot, they read a lot, they get in their zone. So I just come in, I do my thing, drop it off, and I'm out. And then we have our scheduled team time and training time and media time. So what I do is I have the relationship with the UFC, and I get the media schedule ahead of time. So I find out what the media commitments are. I mean, this is like a week before we even get on the plane.
Right.
And I understand exactly what he needs to do, and I know exactly how many calories he needs to eat. I know how much relative calories he's going to expend at each event, and I can start to calculate what his meal delivery will be during these times to make sure that he's well fed to get through the open workout, through the media call day, or the other things that we have to get done. He has just enough calories to sustain his energy during those times, but not enough to spill over.
Wow.
Because we gotta walk that fine line. Feed him enough to do everything he needs. Don't spill over because we're still in the middle of the weight cut, but we don't want to underfeed him because then his body's going to shut down, and then we're in a crisis mode, and then we have to rebuild him back up. And you see a lot of guys during fight week, they enter that crisis mode really quick because they're not as prepared as we are.
Yeah. So when critics of yours, when you hear them kind of minimize, like, what's Dolce, man? He's just, eat clean. How hard is that? I mean, all that you're telling me right now, I mean, you got to feel a little bit insulted when somebody says something like that. Like, hey, bro, you don't realize what I'm doing here.
It's insulting, and it bothered me at first because I didn't understand it, because I know how much care and compassion I put into it. I know what the results of my work are, and I would hear people saying it, and then more and more people started saying it, and I realized, well, I must be doing something right to have so many detractors pointing at me saying they could do what I do, but nobody does what I do. Nobody's doing what I do. Nobody's been doing. I've been doing this since before Zuffa bought the UFC. People don't get that. Most of the people talking smack have been in the game for a year or 2 years. They don't know, all the stories that I have in my database, how many athletes I've worked with at what a high level all over the world. I've been doing this for so many years at such a high level with such a high level, high percentage of success in doing this. And my current rate of employment, I think, speaks for itself. These athletes are very selfish. They're very frugal. They will cut your throat in a heartbeat. And the fact that I have such a long history with these athletes and they keep employing me shows, I think, the value of what I bring, because they've done it without me before.
Right.
And they have the ability to do it without me in the future, but they keep me on board to keep on going, to keep achieving. So to the detractors, I get it. Now, here's, because some, pseudo MMA nutritionist, people come out and they, try and belittle what I say to put their own brand out there. So they've been using my name to get their own brand out there. But I only work with 5 athletes a year, 5 UFC athletes a year. There's over 550 UFC athletes on the roster. You have your pick of every other athlete. So I don't understand why my name would even be brought into the equation. It's just a matter of people hunting for headlines. And I understand that with the detractors, and I don't mention them by name, and I don't, play that Twitter game that they try and provoke me into. I just kind of let it disappear, and I just focus on the work.
I was going to ask you, I didn't realize it was only 5. But, I mean, are you maxed out? I mean, can you bring on more clients at this point?
I certainly could, but I don't want to dilute my service. I mean, I want to make sure I have maximum focus on my athletes.
Right.
That's the goal. I have Rhonda, who's, it's a lot of work. Rhonda is a massive bantamweight.
Yep.
It's bantam. Is that she's 135?
Yep.
Okay. I have Tiago, who's a massive welterweight. I have Mirsad Bektik. I've been with Mirsad for years, well before anybody knew him, when he was fighting at the local level in the Midwest. I've been with Mirsad Bektik. Now he's undefeated in UFC. Huge things coming from Mirsad. Manny Gambierian, who I just took on a few fights ago, which is a very interesting story for me. And I don't headhunt. A lot of people out there, they headhunt the top athletes. I've turned down multiple UFC reigning world champions because you don't need me. And I've accepted undercard athletes because that's somebody who needs my help. That's somebody who I actively can help. And I see that there's future value in helping this human being achieve their goals. I work my ass off. My family's taken care of. It's not, I know people talk about, paycheck. For me, it's not about the paycheck. It's about helping people. If I wanted the paycheck, I'd be, accepting the big name, offers that I get for big dollars. It's not worth it for me. I want to develop these younger kids, these younger athletes, and get them to that same level. That's more the passion behind it.
How do you end up working with a guy like Mirsad when he's still on the regional level?
I met Mirsad. He was a friend of Jake Ellenberger's.
Okay.
He trained with Jake, and I've been buddies with Jake since 2006. He was a friend of Jake Ellenberger's. He actually popped out to American Top Team. I just happened to be with Tiago. He introduced himself, and his personality, he was a gentleman. He was a young man. I think he was 19 at the time. A young man. He was a gentleman. He just had morals, and he had values, and he had manners, and he had talent. And I saw the talent in him. He moves like George St. Pierre. He is a young George St. Pierre when I saw him initially. And I've said that since day one. And I immediately said, hey, let's keep in touch. Let me see what you're doing. I saw what he was doing. He was like a bodybuilder diet, and then he would just starve himself like an American wrestler, crash at the very end, and he'd go out there and he would just grind out these wins.
Right.
And we started working. And, I hope you guys have him on the show one day and hear his story and his genesis of what he was then to what he is now. And I like to think I play just a tiny, tiny little percentage in helping him develop as a man and then as an athlete, after that point. He's just a special guy, and I could see that. I saw that. And whether, I think he'll be a reigning world champion in the UFC, but if that never happens, that doesn't matter to me because, it's being on the journey with this young man and helping him get to his full potential. Yeah. Wherever that may be, it's being on this journey and kind of that's what I enjoy at this phase.
That's awesome. I guess we should say one person that you're not working with, and not to cause any riff or anything, but you're not working with Nick Lentz this week.
Correct.
And I don't want to. I mean, obviously, his decision is his decision. I'm just curious, because I was turning in my staff picks this week.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, Oliveira's tough.
Yeah.
And I was like, Lentz has been on a roll, and I was like, and I know Dolce's going to be down there with Thiago, so he's probably going to be helping Nick too. I'm like, so he's going to have that little extra edge.
Yeah.
So knowing that you were going to be down here, I mean, were you surprised? Did he say, Mike, I'm good, I don't need you, or how does that go?
Well, it was a matter of Thiago got the fight first. Thiago got the fight, well before Nick or even Mursad was on the card, and Thiago retained my services.
Right.
And that's really what happened. He retained my services with Thiago. It's a full-time gig. It's a 5-round fight versus Carlos Condit. There's not much room for me to take care of anybody else. I've been with Thiago the longest, and I've always said that there's a seniority to what I do. If I've been working for an athlete longer, regardless of their place on the card, I have to give that athlete first right of refusal. Just so happens that Thiago I've been with the longest of any athlete I work with currently. He's also the highest spot on the card in the biggest fight of his career. And that was the guy who got me. Now I'm working with Mursad also because Mursad and Thiago are very close friends. I mean, Mursad comes over almost every night for dinner. They have, Christmas and Thanksgiving together.
Wow.
Mursad's Thiago's little brother essentially now.
So he's just around him anyway.
He's just around anyway. I mean, they travel together, and Mursad and Thiago wanted to be on the same card so they could compete together like they did in Orlando. So it was Thiago plus Mursad in that package. So with Nick, I mean, actively right now I am consulting with him.
Okay.
We just had a meeting in his room. He landed here. He had some flight issues, so we just had a meeting in his room right now. We went over the weight cut, the preparation. So I'm definitely assisting Nick with that, but I'm just not hands-on in the process.
I was going to say, because I know you're a big Nick Lentz fan.
Absolutely.
I've heard you hype him up. You should be his manager the way you hype him up.
That's it. Nick Lentz is the most feared featherweight in the UFC. Conor McGregor jumped over Nick Lentz to get to Dennis Seaver when he said he wanted to fight at Top Contender. Well, Dennis Seaver was ranked lower than Nick. Why don't you take on Nick Lentz? Because Nick Lentz can beat every single athlete in the featherweight division, and every other athlete knows that. Nobody will fight him. None of the top 5 guys will fight him. They all keep turning Nick down. I'm not going to name names. I think you probably know some names. They keep turning Nick Lentz down. That's why you see Nick getting stuck with the fights that he's getting stuck with. I mean, the Charles fight is a grudge match more than anything else. Charles has a decent ranking right now. He's ranked below Nick, but they have unfinished business.
Sure.
It's a good storyline, and so I'm a huge Nick Lentz fan. Of course, we'll be working together in the future. It's just for this one I was retained by Thiago.
Makes sense. Well, I hope he does well. You mentioned the flight issues. I know he wasn't alone. I was talking to Damon Jackson earlier. I got stuck. I got delayed. Took 40 hours to get here from Vegas.
My God.
So I'm just curious. I mean, if you happen to be, I guess, do you travel with your guys in case something like that happens?
Absolutely.
Because we had a 16-hour delay in Dallas. Then we missed our connection in Sao Paulo. So, like I said, ended up taking 40 hours from Vegas to here. So when a guy hires you at that level, you don't want to just come meet him in Brazil. You want to be with him so you can handle anything like that.
Absolutely.
And because you're traveling food, I mean, if you're stuck in the airport or stuck like we were, you can still get a guy through.
I have, from the time we get on the plane, I have everything they need. It doesn't matter if we're stuck in the airport. We have everything. They will not miss a meal. They will have all the nutrition they need. We are focused on the goal, and I expect to be stuck in a Sao Paulo airport. I expect to be stuck on the runway for 4 or 6 hours. I expect to be caught in traffic for 4 hours like we were in when Nick got his last fight in Brazil. I mean, it was a 4-hour bus ride to get to weigh-ins, and then almost a 4-hour bus ride back. It was just horrid. The traffic was horrid.
Terrible.
We had to get to the venue at 9 a.m. and Nick fought almost 10 o'clock at night. It was insanity, but he didn't miss a meal the entire time.
What do you bring? It's like an electric hot plate or something?
I do. I bring an electric skillet that has a ceramic coating, which is very important. I don't use a Teflon or anything like that. And it's the perfect size. It fits great in my carry-on luggage. I disassemble it. I have a little multi-tool that does not have a blade, so I can unscrew everything and I can reassemble it all. I pack, I have bamboo spatulas and things like that, so I pack everything I need. I have a military issue can opener that kind of unfolds out, so I can keep that safely in my backpack that TSA doesn't have any issue with.
TSA, do you ever get stopped? Or they look at you like, what? I mean, do they ever give you like the extra check? Or
I
something?
used to get stopped, and then by getting stopped so many times, I figured out what I could bring and what I could bring to each different district.
Right.
Brazil, it's pretty easy.
Yeah.
Mexico City, unfortunately, I just think they were screwing with me. They took all my food.
What?
They took all my food. I was like, are you crazy? What are you taking this for? And they just, were kind of like very smugly were speaking Spanish in front of me, and they just took everything and they made me dump it out. I was not working with, but I was with Misha Tate. She's like, they just fucking threw out all your food. I was like, yeah. Now, people are walking by with McDonald's, no problem.
Right.
But you got some grass-fed beef in your bag. Well, that's contraband, evidently.
Wow.
You just roll with it.
What about guys, and I don't want to pick on Kelvin Gastelum, for instance, but he's a name that pops to my head like right away that guys say, oh, I love Dolce. I love his principles. I'm just going to follow his principles.
Yeah.
The things that I learned, I'm just not going to use him.
Yeah.
Can people be successful at that?
They absolutely can. Unfortunately, when Kelvin had said that, he missed weight on that fight.
Yeah.
And that's the info. I love Kelvin. He and I are close friends. And the issue that happened with us was he had a manager that was in the mix, and I didn't get a paycheck for almost 6 months, not even for my out-of-pocket expenses. I paid for my flight, I paid for my hotel, I paid for all Kelvin's, food, and then 6 months later, I still didn't get reimbursed that, let alone any professional service fees. And that wasn't the right way to go about it. And then my name got bashed in the media somehow because they'll print headlines without actually doing their due diligence.
Yeah.
And investigating the story to find out exactly what happened. And then the internet trolls pick up on it and they spin it. And that's kind of what happened. But Kelvin and I, we're like, dude, these stories are crazy.
Yeah.
Because he knows what's up and he was very apologetic towards it. And then we wanted to work together a few times, just the timing didn't work out. And, there's quite a few buffers, unfortunately, in his system. Kelvin, maybe it's different now, but he didn't really speak for himself. Either there was a coach or there was a manager or there was somebody else, and the stories got twisted. And that happens when you have a young, fast-rising star. You get a lot of people trying to hang on to it,
Right.
and they try and, minimize other people's contributions and push other people away. And I think a little bit of that's what happened. But, I don't – like Hendricks is a great example. Johnny Hendricks and I started working with him when he was an undercard fighter, made his way all the way up to the UFC world title, and he wasn't following my principles in the offseason like he should have.
No.
And he said this.
Yeah.
He was using me as a crash diet guru. And that is, again, why I hate that moniker. He would come, before the Lawler 2 fight, Johnny started, 211 pounds less than 2 months before the fight. We're talking a 40-plus pound weight drop, and his lean body mass was so low it was almost impossible to get him on weight. And after that very traumatic weight cutting issue, and people try and bash me, but in my perspective, I'm saying he made weight.
Right.
He shouldn't have fucking made weight. It took every trick in my book to get this man to make 170 to at least give him a shot to fight for the world title. And he did get the shot to fight for the world title. And myself and 10 out of 12 of the ringside journalists all believe Johnny won that fight clearly. Somehow Robbie walked away, which is fine. It was a good lesson for Johnny. And because of that experience, Johnny then realized Dolce's been right the whole time. I can do this. And he adopted the year-round lifestyle.
Right.
Now he goes grocery shopping.
So he's got his wife helping him, I guess.
And none of that happened beforehand. All that would fall on me, and I would only work with Johnny during fight week.
Right.
They wouldn't bring me out during his fight camps like Tiago does, which I would have preferred that. It was just bring me in for fight week, pull out all my tricks, get him, on weight, on smoke and fumes. He'd make weight, and he's just such a talented athlete. He'd go out there and smash guys. And I'm really happy to see with what he's doing now. But for anybody, it's professional fighting. It's a 52-week job.
Yeah.
It's not just an 8-week training camp. 52 weeks a year, you have to be dedicated. Then the weight cuts become easy, the fights become easy, the training camps become easy, and you put yourself in the best position to succeed.
Is it just a hard sell sometimes to get people? It's a money saving thing, right? They're like, man, Dolce, I want to try to save my money.
For me, I don't charge them for the off-season stuff. I'm fucking cool. People try and bash me about the cash. If they only knew, and the numbers that you see in the media are a lie, I just don't extend the stories by counterpointing it.
Right.
So what everyone reads in the media, it's all bullshit. I give away so much free content and free information, and the athletes I work with, you can ask them. They're probably not going to divulge real numbers. I don't charge anybody for off-season stuff. There's a retainer that they pay me to start working with them. Once the retainer's paid, I work with them year-round. I become indebted to them, bonded to them. I don't ask them for another dollar until I have to travel. I have to leave my family, leave my baby until I have to get on the road and travel. Then I need, a day rate to be on the road doing what I do. And then it's a minuscule single-digit percentage of purse if I work with them for the entire fight, the entire training camp, which is way less than the managers charge to do a heck of a lot less. It's way less than a lot of their skills coaches do to hold pads for them a couple times a week for a couple hours. I'm with these guys 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, going through the grind at a much lower rate than almost everybody else around them is. But I have a little bit of a brand, and I get some media pop, and then people want to drag my name through the mud.
I'll be interested to see if that changes a little bit. I mean, I think with the Reebok deal, we've seen a couple high-profile fighters already leave management companies and just say, I don't think I need to pay you. And I still think there's a place for managers. I think especially if they can help guide your career, like if they're really taking an active role in like helping you make decisions on fights and that sort of thing. I think that's important. And B, if it's a manager that really figures out how to help you continue to get sponsorships by activating outside of the cage, I think if managers can figure that out, they're going to be valuable. But I can also see now with the Reebok deal, I can see guys saying, I don't really need a manager. I can handle it myself. But I wonder if they will then reinvest, because it does seem like nutrition is the last thing that people do, and it's so weird because, my God, these athletes, like, nutrition should be like number one.
It's the most important thing. I mean, you can have a Ferrari sitting in the driveway. If you don't have fuel in that tank, that thing is going nowhere. I don't care what performance pieces are put on. It will not get out of the driveway, and it will stall with not enough gas in there. We can see that. There's lots of high-level, super talented guys with the best skills coaches around them. They gas out in 2 minutes.
Yep.
And they get their asses kicked by some dude who just fucking trains and is in shape. That shouldn't even be in the octagon with them. And they get trounced by that guy. Nutrition is everything. If your nutrition is on point, then you'll get a heck of a lot more out of your training sessions. You'll be able to develop more skills. You'll stay healthier. You'll be able to push harder. You'll have a much longer career. Now you're extending the longevity, the money years, the last 3 to 5 years of your career. You look at like a Dan Henderson or a Randy Couture, Chuck Liddell. Those guys made a shitload of money the last third of their career than the first third or even the second third. Those are the money years for these athletes. Unfortunately, a lot of athletes, they just burn out. And they burn out at that the second chapter, the second phase of their career. They don't get to those money years. And nutrition is huge, man.
That's interesting. What would you recommend for people, just not athletes, but just regular people that are on the road a lot, man? Obviously, you're doing this out of hotel rooms.
Yep.
There's businessmen, women, whatever. They're traveling a lot. I mean, obviously, if you can take some of your own food, I guess that's huge. I guess that might be tough for some people, but if you can make an entire fight week diet happen on carry-on, I guess they can figure something out. But would you? Yeah. So would that be your biggest hint? And also, would it just be, I guess, when you get somewhere, go grocery shop, do something instead of eating out?
Absolutely. And it always comes down to goals. If you're motivated to do something, you're going to get it done. Now, most people say they want to lose weight, they want to look like this, they want to do that. Well, what are you doing to do that? Are you acting counter? Is it your actions contrary to achieving your goal? And I'm very clear. It is black and white, yes or no. You are either moving one step closer or one step farther from your goal. End of story. Don't give me that gray area bullshit. What you just did, your next decision will either take you closer or farther. And if you look at life like that, no matter what your goal is, it becomes very clear what you need to do. If you want to be healthy on the road, it's very clear what you need to do. And most times it's by doing the things that you know you shouldn't be doing. You shouldn't be fucking eating at the hotel buffet. You shouldn't be, stopping and getting the fast food. You shouldn't be waiting, 4, 6, 8 hours in an airport not eating properly. You shouldn't be grabbing a soda or a beer or, a juice drink instead of just hydrating with real water. I mean, water is one of the easiest things for people to do, and it's one of the things that most people complain about most. Well, I just want to add flavor. I can't drink plain water. God, I just want to slap people in the head like that. Like, as soon as I hear people saying, I know you're not going to do anything I say. You're wasting my time.
So now why am I even talking to you?
Why am I even talking to you? Like, you like air? Do you like breathing air? Like, why don't you just fucking stop that? Just save us all. Save us all the fucking drama of hearing you talk, how you don't like water and you don't like vegetables and you don't like all these other essential ingredients to human survival. You don't like those, but you're going to complain to me how you want to look like Thiago Alves. Get the fuck out of here. It's just not going to work that way. I wish it was. I wish Snickers bars would make you lean and perform at a high level, but they don't. We know that, so we need to do the right things. Planning is key. We just need to plan. I understand if I'm going to be on a plane for 20 hours, I need to eat every 2 hours. I need a snack, and then I need something more substantial, closer to a meal. So I have that with me. I don't eat plain food. I will not eat a meal on a fucking airplane that's been made somewhere on site, packed in this little aluminum thing.
Dude, I'm not even healthy and I won't eat that stuff.
You
man.
know what I'm saying.
I'm like, no, I can't do it, man.
And people, like, when I say no, the stewardess is like, no? Like, this is a long flight. I'm like, I open my bag. I'm like, yeah, I know. Like, I got my own real food in here. God forbid. And it's like, and then the lady next to me is like, oh, are you on a diet? Like, no, like, I'm a human being. This is the way I live. Like, you're on a fucking death diet, eating this shit, high sodium fucking meals, high sugar meals, high carb meals while sitting on a plane for 8, 12, 16 hours.
Yep.
It's insane. And everybody listening knows that. And so just don't do what you should not be doing. That's the first step. Put
That's
down the
it.
fucking soda, the beer, the alcohol, the candy, the chips, all that shit. Put it down and start eating real food. That's step one. That's the easiest thing.
Last thing I got for you, man, because I've held you longer than I thought I would, but I always enjoy talking
No,
to
I
you,
love
man.
it, man. I love it.
New dad,
Yes.
4 months.
4 months old. Yes.
How's that changing life for you so far?
It has made, obviously, these trips a lot harder to be on. My heart is always with her, with my family now in Vegas, and it's kind of this bittersweet ability to be able to be here with Thiago for the biggest fight of his career, yet miss 25% of my daughter's life at this stage, and that's a struggle, and the struggle is real. So for everyone that thinks that they can do what Mike Dolce does, or they want to be Mike Dolce, well, you got to walk in my shoes. You don't know the sacrifice it takes to do these things.
Yeah.
But again, I'm providing for my family. I'm focused on my daughter's college fund right now. I'm starting to, get my 529 going. I'm planning on this shit, which is why I do what I do. But it just makes my goals very clear. It allows me to, swing my feet out of bed at 5 a.m. and get up and attack the day instead of, just saying fuck it and wait until 9 a.m. to kind of be a little, step behind in my day. I want to be a step ahead. I want to, experience everything with her, and I want to slow time down now. I think that's the biggest thing. I'm trying to find a way to slow time down so I could really enjoy every aspect of fatherhood, and, enjoying it with my wife and just watching my little girl grow. And I'm already, starting to work her unilateral motions and her hand-eye coordination. I'm developing the next Ronda Rousey. Trust me. I have her watching the UFC. When the ladies fight in the UFC, I allow her to watch those things right now on our TV, and just kind of, I'm getting her in. Now, she can be in ballet. She can be a piano player. I'm going to give her the opportunity. I'm going to put all that out there now.
That's awesome, man. It goes by fast. I can tell you. I mean, my kid turned 3 2 weeks ago, man. It's just
I remember when you guys were pregnant.
Right?
Right?
It just goes by so fast, man. It is tough. I mean, I still say it. I think I have the best job in the world. I love what I do. I have a passion for the sport, and to be able to see the world, and to be able to cover the sport, and to talk to the athletes and coaches and just everybody around it, man. I love it. But that's the flip side, man. Those sacrifices of the first time my kid ate solid food, I watched it on a YouTube video from Macau. I mean, thank God there's technology where there's, my wife can tape it and put it online, and I watch it, 5 minutes after it happened, or we can Skype and FaceTime and that sort of thing. So thank God for that. But it is tough, man. It's definitely, I think people have to realize, like, yes, all the stuff that you get to do, it's great, but there's a cost too.
It absolutely there is, and that's life, right?
That's it, man. So what do you got coming up, man? After this is obviously a big week here for you, but I mean, you're always going, man. What's the next chapter for you?
So I work with Lindsay Valenzuela, who's a CrossFit athlete.
Okay.
She was the runner-up in the 2013 CrossFit Games. She just took second place into Southern California Regionals, which is the most competitive region in the entire country. She qualified for the 2015 Games, which was the goal. So now I'm focused on her, who competes 2015 CrossFit Games in July to get her that gold medal. And then I have Manny Gamburin fight July 15th in San Diego, again versus Scott Jorgensen at 135 at bantamweight. That's a massive drop for Manny, who walks around the mid-160s. I have Ronda fighting August 1st back again here in Brazil. And, the circus keeps on rolling. We opened up the Dolce Diet Center in Las Vegas.
Really?
Right off of Buffalo and Sunset. I'm really excited about that. So now, like, regular families, it's not just for athletes. Of course, athletes are welcome to come and visit, but it's more for regular families. People that just want to learn how to eat, moms that want to feed their families better. Myself, I have a team of dietitians on staff. We will go to your house. We will stand in your kitchen. We will show you how to organize your cabinets and what foods shouldn't be there, replacements to make. We will go to the grocery store with you and kind of help educate people on shopping, which a lot of people don't understand how to shop properly. And economically, what's your budget? We can help you fit these menus into your budget and also into your lifestyle. So it's an amazing experience.
I'll have to come check that out.
Definitely do. That'd be awesome. Kind of run you guys through the testing of it to talk about. And then towards the end of the year, I'm working on a nonprofit dedicated to childhood eating disorders, childhood obesity and eating disorder, anorexia, bulimia. And that's something, it's special to me. And it's, I think, a way that I can give back. And I think that's what's going to change the direction of our nation. where obesity is at an alarming rate. Lifestyle-related diseases is the #1 killer in the United States. It's not, getting shot in Detroit or getting hit by a drunk driver. It's lifestyle-related illness, and it's poor parenting quite a bit from maybe the parents, our parents, but us, kind of teaching our kids the bad habits that we learned, and then the McDonald's generation now, the stop and go quick. So it's a matter of not me, but of us to lead a movement to get to the children first, to educate the parents, but also to educate the children on how they should be eating and allowing them to develop the way that they were intended to, that nature intended. And unfortunately, there was a disconnect between what's natural and now what's modified. And we want to fix that. So that's something that we will be rolling out more towards the end of the year.
Very cool. And obviously, still doing the podcast, which is always motivational and informational. And then Twitter Q&As on Sunday still a thing?
Every Sunday I do the Twitter Q&A, and I spend all Sunday on Twitter just answering. My record is 804 questions I answered, which is crazy because Twitter only allows you to post 100 times in an hour. So I would have even gone higher. I would have broke that record, but I couldn't. I would get blocked.
Oh, yeah, because it times you out or whatever.
It times me out. And also, the last thing, we just launched on thedolcediet.com. We have an online personalized training program. So you can follow the 3 Weeks to Shredded program, just like Tiago or all world-class athletes, and it's personalized to your body weight, to your gender, to your specific goals. We have the Living Lean program, which is an 8-week program, and it develops healthy habits. It's all of our meals. We have over 300 meals in the database. We have over 200 exercises. We build you the exact exercise program. Tiago's actually one of the athlete in the videos performing the exercises. I'm coaching the tutorial, and we just launched it. We're kind of ending the beta testing phase right now, and it's something special. We're able to reach people that it extends me, where I can't work with tens of thousands of people around the world, but you can just go online and you can get very similar content. But I have a team of dietitians who are our customer service reps. So when you have a question, you're actually speaking with a real dietitian to help troubleshoot this.
That's awesome.
I'm pumped up.
Congrats, brother. You got a lot of good things going on, man.
Grinding. I got to pay for college, man.
I hear that.
It's grinding, homie.
All right, brother. Well, hey, man, thank you for stopping by, man. Like I said, I know you're a busy man. You got a lot going on, so I really appreciate you taking this time. And, man, I'm looking forward to this main event fight. I mean, honestly, I'm looking forward to Mersad's fight. I'm looking forward to Nick's as well, but I'm looking forward to this main event. I think it's a great fight. I'm actually leaning towards Tiago. He's the underdog.
Yeah.
But, man, he's been looking so good since he came back. And I feel like he's kind of been getting ready for this fight in the last 2 fights by fighting guys with similar body types. And, I just feel like it's all kind of building this. And take nothing away from Carlos, because he's definitely one of the best guys in the game, both as a fighter and as a person. I love talking to him, and I love watching him fight. I just think this is going to be a great fight. But I'm actually leaning towards Tiago.
That's the analysis of a grizzled veteran in the game. Because what you just said about Tiago, Seth Baczynski and Jordan Maine combined equal Carlos Condit.
Yeah.
That's the danger that Carlos brings is the power, the finishing ability of a Jordan Maine, and the resilience and the lankiness and the unorthodox style of a Seth, where it was a great way for Tiago to transition into this fight with Condit. Now, Condit is going through what Tiago went through, shaking off that ring rust, coming out. And what's interesting, I mean, Tiago's style is very dangerous for a guy like Carlos right now. I mean, you're talking about a very powerful, explosive Muay Thai striker who has, very solid wrestling skills, as Tiago showed multiple times, and he's solid on the ground. He's got great ground and pound. His submission defense on the ground is excellent, and he's in 5-round shape. So it's I think this is the top welterweight fight of the year. No offense to Robbie and Rory coming up soon, but I think this is the fight to watch.
Probably more excited about this, to be honest with you.
I agree. I'm 100%. We've seen Robbie versus Rory before. That was a good fight.
Yeah.
This one is going to be better.
That's awesome, man. All right, brother. Well, I won't hold you any longer, man. Thanks for stopping
John,
by.
my brother, thank you very much.
All right, that was the man, Mike Dolce. Again, thank you very much for spending a lot of time on Fight Week. Very cool of him. He has a lot going on, as I'm sure you heard there. So it's very cool of him to stop by and explain everything that he had going on Fight Week. So that wraps up another episode of the MMA Roadshow. I hope you enjoyed it. This has been a hugely busy month. In the past 4 weeks, we've been in Australia, the Philippines, Las Vegas, and now Brazil. Man, it's gone by very, very fast. It'll keep going in June. We've got New Orleans next week, Mexico City after that, and then I just lose track, to be honest with you, at that point. So anyway, thank you everybody for listening. The MMARoadshow.com, you can download directly there. You can also find it on iTunes, of course. If you're listening on iTunes, please subscribe, review, do all that good stuff. Help this thing grow. Follow us on Instagram, the MMA Roadshow. You can kind of see pictures of what we're doing each week, myself and Cold Coffee. So as we're telling you the stories, you can follow along. But anyway, most importantly, everybody, thank you for listening.